Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Tyler Mask, aka Tyler Suplex, aka Tyler Kuhn Williams, or formerly known, currently known, either one, aka the one who thought he lived. And guys, we are back here for the second episode of the Death of Pro Wrestling podcast. Yes, indeed, we still kept the name the Death of Pro Wrestling podcast. I never got around to changing the name, and I'm like, we're just gonna keep it. So, last time we were here, we were talking about how Evo killed New Japan Pro Wrestling. We then proceeded to get ratioed on Twitter, and by we, I mean me. But that's besides the point.
You know, I still get flack for that in the circles that are around. It's like, you were part of that Evil killed pro wrestling thing. It's like, dude, I didn't make the title, and it wasn't run by me. I wouldn't have approved it.
Yeah, that was on me. That was on me. I took the fall for that whole thing. But it's all right. Whatever the title is, it's going to be how Kenny Omega killed AEW this time. So we might get ratioed even worse.
I think it's already started for me.
But nonetheless, guys, I am here with, and you already heard them talking, but I'm here with the one and only Forrest.
Forrest, a.k.a. 10%, a.k.a. Big Black Food Man, a.k.a.
I didn't know where the Big Black was going for a second, honestly.
I didn't interrupt your AKAs. I have a bunch of them. AKA Long-Legged Scissor Man, AKA Get. I have like so many of these. Legitimately, over the years, I've just come up with so many ridiculous nicknames and stolen so many others from other people. But yeah, my name is Forrest Sova, youtube.com/Forrest Sova. Thank you for having me, Tyler. I promised to the people who are listening. Last time I got a little rambly. I've slept this time. So we're not going to get nearly as insane. But I think it'll still be a good time.
You know, to be fair, now I'm a lot more energized because when we first did our podcast, it was immediately after Dominion ended, and I did a live stream, then I went straight into... So I'm not going to be drained by like the last hour, so I have a lot
That
of
was a
energy.
psychotic idea.
Yeah, I'm never doing that again.
But no, just endurance challenge. I remember for the last 2 years, I think that I did like a 7-hour live stream where I was drinking that went into Wrestle Kingdom, where I just watched Wrestle Kingdom on stream. And so I was streaming for like 12 hours straight. And both of you saw my Jay White Change the World 2 director's commentary.
Yeah.
Awful.
That is insane and ill-advised, might I add. It was the most ridiculous. People still talk to me, message me. It's like, you should release that. It's like, no, you don't. You don't actually want that. I should, but I won't.
See, the thing about that is that you unlisted the video. So technically, everyone who liked it, they could still go to the like video and still access it. So
I made sure to play some copyrighted music on there. It's blocked.
And then lastly, JoJo Wrestling himself, Joseph Montesillo.
Hello. I used to make videos on YouTube.
You sound like me, sir.
Joseph, the famous wrestling blogger.
There's a lot of quotation marks around that famous. But yeah, I'm here. We're going to talk about some wrestling. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Had to have you guys on again. It was an encore. We got a lot of people who wanted to see it. There's a lot of people who did not like it. But there's a lot of people who also wanted to see us do it again. So we just had to run it back for a second time. So my first question is, how have you guys been? I mean, we haven't done this podcast in literally 5 months. So how have you guys been in the time that we've been gone? What's been catching up with you guys in wrestling, outside of wrestling? I mean, for me, my channel got not only ratio, but then it got fucking deleted. So a lot of shit went on my end. But how's it been for you guys?
Well, I mean, that's what you get for doing the clickbait titles with that misrepresent. Look, I'm sorry that I had to report your video, but I couldn't be associated.
I knew it was you. You
Oh
son
my
of a bitch.
god.
Here I am thinking it was Okada this whole
conspiracy.
time. Oh my
It was
God.
me all along, Austin.
It's the grand design.
I gotta get rid of every wrestling YouTuber with more subscribers than me. It's a lot of them. I'm gonna be working for a while.
I think both Forrest and I have just been rewatching stuff for the year-end video. Forrest finally started watching Noah. I think Tyler, you also started.
Yeah,
dipping
I
in
was
as well.
I was working on my top 50 video, which is coming up very soon. We'll have a chance to plug all of our stuff. But I'm working on my top 50 video coming up very soon. And I figure that I should tap into a bunch of different markets just to get a feel for everything. And I actually had to start watching Noah. I started watching some current All Japan. I started watching TJP. Like, I started watching a lot of promotions I never would have checked out otherwise. So, yeah, I started getting
That's
a lot
good.
of things.
Yeah, you should
It's
be
the only
good.
way to do it.
I agree. How many? So I was talking about this at some point, but it's like, when you make a top 50, how many matches do you think that you're watching? Because you can't just pick 50 matches and watch 50 matches. That's insane to me.
No, exactly. So here's what I did. I sat down and I said, okay, let me list down all the matches that I remember from this year. Because we can honestly say we've seen about at least like what, 1,000 matches this year. But how many do you honestly remember happening?
Like 4 maybe.
Yeah, I said, okay, I think I listed about 30 matches that I legitimately can recall happening. So then I said, okay, I'll go to a website, see what the top rated matches are, and then I'll see if I remember them in a good way. And then I listed the ones I remember in a good way, and I rewatched all 50 of them. And then I decided to rank them. That's how I went about it.
All right.
Here's what I did.
How'd you-
I have been maintaining a spreadsheet of every match I've seen this year with the rating. And as I've been watching through the year, I've been ranking them on a list of 100 and just ordering stuff and moving things around. And around, I want to say like last month, November, maybe the end of October, I dedicated myself to rewatching everything that was conceivably going to breach a top 20, which in this case was everything I ranked, I rated 4.25 stars and above. And that's how I've been doing it. And I'm planning to revisit some stuff that either I haven't seen or maybe I think might have a chance of going up in rating if I watched it again. So there's still a little work left to do to pick up the stragglers.
See, Joseph did it the right way. Joseph, he does like match reviews, like probably I would say like what, a day, maybe a few hours after the match is over. So he has like a concurrent review for each match that he's already done over the course of a year. He did it the right way. I'm like last minute kind of doing this shit. So, you know, I got to give it all to Joseph here.
The thing that I admire about the way Joseph does it is my biggest problem, the way that I've rewatched matches, is I need to rewatch all of my matches in one block. Otherwise, I'm just not going to remember what happened.
So you just spent like what, 40 straight hours watching matches? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I don't need to be, not sitting straight, but like it needs to be like, I can't take like a week off, start watching matches. Like I have to watch them pretty consistently. Otherwise, I'm going to forget my opinions on matches.
Yeah.
Unless I write them down, and even then it has like an explanation. And so with Joseph, like he writes these reviews of matches on his blog, and they're meant to be read, and because they're meant to be read, they're formatted well, and it gives like details and things about it. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I write like my internal reviews of things, like I watched like all of the heavyweight championship matches from 1990 for the heavyweight for New Japan.
Yeah.
Like to make a video about all of the heavyweight championship matches that have ever happened. So I watched those a couple months ago, and I liked all of them, but I don't remember any of them, even though I've taken incredibly detailed notes because they're not, because I've written my review, and it's like, but I can't fairly talk about them otherwise, like, so I have to rewatch them, and so that's one match I have to rewatch. And that's what I
think I think a rewatch is important either way. Like, that's inevitable. It has to be part of the process.
A rewatch 100% has to be part of the process, and a rewatch is different than first viewing. 100%.
Oh, like, yeah, absolutely.
You notice more things. You judge things differently, and like once the result is taken out, and it's why someone like, I love Tetsuya Naito. Naito is awful on rewatch because his matches are generally built around everyone loves the guy. So the suspense is, it's result based. And once you take the result out of it, there's not a whole lot to love, like to really sink your teeth into. And it doesn't have to be, but on rewatch, it's different. Someone like Tanahashi, great on rewatch. Someone like Jay White, great on rewatch, because outside of the result, there are things that they do that stamp a match with some kind of signature energy.
Okay, so since we're on this topic right now, we talked about it briefly in our group chat yesterday, and I just want to bring this up just to see where everyone gets their, kind of descriptive analysis from. So in compiling my top 50, I found myself switching around a lot of the matches on the latter half. So for you guys, and you're making your top 10, top 20, top 100, top 1000, whatever the hell, if you're switching matches around, where is it? Is it in the beginning half, like the 50, 40, 30s? Is it in the latter half, the 10s, the 5s? Like, where are you switching matches, and like, how are you, like, what's getting to the point where it's like, okay, maybe this match was here, but I'm gonna put it back a little bit because, and why? That's why I kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
So where I usually do it, sorry to cut you off, Joseph, and trust
Go
me,
ahead, Doug.
you're gonna give like an actual answer to it. What I do, here's the legitimate thing. What I do when I rewatch match is, and this is what I do during G1, and it's not a perfect process, but it's the one that I use. I will watch a match, like the first match that I watch, I will put it in a Word document or some document system. I'll put it there. And then the next match I watch, I look at that last match and say, is this better or worse? And if it's better, I put it above. If it's worse, I put it below. And as I go, I fill in, like, where does this fit in here? And once it's there, it's there. But I think about where I place this match a lot because I don't use star rating. I just think, what did I like about this match? Do I like it more than what I like about what did this match do? And a lot of the things is like, this match technically is better worked for most of it. But there are more things to like than in this match that's like number 5 as opposed to this match. So it's like, okay, I put that at number 6 because it's better than the now number 7. But once I put something somewhere, it's there. But I do a lot, like near the end of my list, once it starts filling out, I start laboring a lot more. And it leads to blocks of people where it's like in G1, I think at some point there were like 3 Kenta matches that were like all in a row. And it was like, okay, well, this is what I, in my brain, can compare them to on day 17 of G1 Climax. So it just goes in between the other 2 Kenta. So again, it's not a perfect system, but once I put them there, they're there. But trust me, before I put them there, I stress out.
I'm basically the exact same system, except it's through the whole year, but I'm ranking as the year goes. And I'm only ranking stuff that's in like the higher parts of my list. So 4 stars and above usually. At the start of the year, I was doing 3 3/4, but it became clear that all the stuff above that was going to wash that out, so I didn't need to pay attention to that rating much anymore. Basically, what I do is I do that through the year, and then I just give it a second pass, focusing on just the range that I'm going to cover in my video, which is going to be the top 20. So I just rewatched all those matches and just focused on what's going to make top 20. Do I think it's going to make top 20? Moving it around. The hardest thing for me this year was probably settling on number 1 because there's a few correct answers, but one was eventually more correct than the other.
I totally agree, and I feel like for me, because like I said, I'm a little more last minute than you guys. I was compiling it. I started this like in October, but I didn't really start compiling it and figuring stuff out until like late last month. That's when I really started rewatching a bunch of stuff. So for me, I feel like when it came to like my 50 to 30s, it's just like, okay, this is kind of almost sort of the what is it called when you're doing like a top 10 honorable mention section, in my opinion. Like, these are matches that I would put on the watch list, but not something I would be like immediate recommendation. Like, this is an amazing match. You know what I mean?
Do you have 40 honorable mentions if you're talking about the things that are outside of the top 10 and your top 50? It's like
No,
the honorable
I said 50 to 30
40.
because I think if you're in like the top 20, you're not necessarily a honorable mention, but you're just not good enough to be in the top 10.
So here's something that I think that I want to put to the room is that we in society, like the way that we take things in, top 10 is kind of ingrained in our brain.
Exactly.
Top 10, top 5, like those are the commonly accepted. Whereas if someone said This guy had the 25th best. He's top 25. A lot of people would take that as a slight, but it's because in our head we are conditioned to relate to a top 10 or a top 5. So if you're way outside of that at a top 25, it's bad. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, if you had the 25th best match of the year,
1,000 matches, more than
absurdly
that. Exactly.
And I got so much flack for this. I made a video about Ishii earlier in the year. I love that video. I think it's great. But one thing got attention for it, and I hated it. Where it was, I said that Tomohiro Ishii is often in good to very good matches, but I don't think Ishii, because of the lack of responsibility that he has and how much goes into them, I don't think he's ever really in match of the year contender match.
Yeah, and you said this in the last podcast, and I think it's very true, is that Ishii's outstandingly great at what he does, but a lot of his matches, he's kind of following a formula. So it's like it's almost kind of hard to differentiate what makes one Ishii match better than the other, unless it's the other wrestler that he's facing. You know what I mean?
Can I also say that last podcast I was talking about that Ishii's formula, he's great, blah 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 blah. My thoughts have matured, and I'm gonna move on from this. Matured from that to fuck Ishii and anybody that love him.
Whoa, where did that come from?
Horrible. So bad. I have been tracking the genesis of this thought, and it's so bad.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Horrid.
I think Ishii is great when he gets the chance to be great. But there's so often where he is just out there playing the hits. And you know when it changed was when Tomohiro Ishii was on the ballot for that for Davey Dave's Meltzer's Little Hall of Fame. And I was like, so he's beside Yoshiaki Fujiwara, Jun Akiyama, Akira Taue, Tomohiro Ishii. And I'm like, okay, so the way that you consider Ishii is like, okay, he's the Stone Pitbull. He's underutilized in New Japan, but he always delivers when it comes. Cool. But when you're putting him in the potential for a Hall of Fame pick, you have to judge someone differently. And so it's like, okay, well, what is Ishii? He's had really good matches for 7 years. That's awesome. Good for Ishii. And then he had a terrible G1, and then he had just boring match after boring match. It's like, Ishii's run out of things. And so what can I do with Ishii? Now, I recognize Ishii has so many things to do, and it's a New Japan problem. That's how it is. I like Ishii. I like when Ishii gets the chance to be good, but very often he doesn't, because he has to have the boring match with Shingo, and he has to have the boring match with this guy, and he has to have the boring match with this guy. He has to check a lot of boxes, and that's his responsibility, and it's made me hate him.
Awful.
Fair game.
Just a flat out bad take.
No, correct take. I've done a lot of thinking about this.
I respect your opinion.
Ishii rules.
Ishii does rule.
And, you know, I wish that he didn't rule as much as he did this year.
He did rule
I feel like that says much more about the year than it does about Ishii.
It's solved for you. Ishii didn't rule this year. It's fixed for you.
I mean, to be fair, not a lot of people ruled this year. You could probably count on one hand how many people actually had great, consistent 2020s, and these are the guys who've been wrestling the entire fucking year. So
yeah,
oh my god, putting together a top 20 hit was a nightmare. It was.
See,
it really was.
My niche is that I only watched and rewatched made lists for New Japan, and so I watched I think 47 matches to put on my top 20 list. And it's like, I didn't like that I only chose top 20 because I didn't watch, I refuse to consider G1 and Best of the Super Juniors and stuff like that. They're round robin. They play by different rules. I can't, refuse to, adamant. And it would also make my list 100 matches. I won't do it. But it makes it easier because I don't have to think about a wrestler of the year for New Japan because there's like 2 options and there's only one correct one.
Fair game. So back to the top 10 thing. So I feel like for me, my difficult point was definitely the latter half, like the top 5, because it's like in your head when you're making like a top whatever, you kind of already know, okay, these are like the 4 or 5 things I know for sure are like going to be in a latter half. Now the question is, what position are they in? I found myself rewatching like my 5 like at least 3 different times, because for me, I like to think that my content in some way is a little bit different from Forrest and Joseph, because I like to think that I live react a lot more than I actually do, at least now, because of what the fuck happened earlier in the year. I live react more than I do actual, like, edited, produced content. And for me, I watch a lot of my matches on the first one when I'm live reacting. And even though, yes, I'm watching it for the first time, experiencing it for the first time, I'm talking to people in my chat. I'm, partially looking away from the screen. I don't really get a full encapsulation of everything that's happening until 100%. I watch it back again. So I had to watch back a lot of those matches. So I'm like, oh, this is an amazing match. I'm like, okay, how great was it? And one match that I watched back, and I realized that maybe it's Proverb, and I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one. But FTR versus the Young Bucks, I watched that back, and I'm like, this was not as great as I remember it being, but it was still good. Top 10.
What? The greatest match of... I didn't watch it. I don't watch it.
Of course you didn't. Forrest AEW hater over here.
It was actually trash.
I wouldn't say bad, but it definitely
I hate that match.
Like, that was one of the matches where I was like, all right, top 10. And then I started making it and I'm like, all right, never mind, it's not top 10.
So what ends up happening is that I think something's going to be super high. And when I try not to think that, because that places an expectation.
Yeah, it's preconceived notions.
Yes. Sure. So I can say that I know for a fact that Joseph loved Okada versus... I forget where he placed it in his list. I've seen his list.
Okada versus Naito?
Yeah, Okada versus Naito, his list of cowards. So I know he loved Okada versus Naito. He rewatched it and he wanted to not like it, and he did.
I really wanted to not like it. Not even not like it. I wanted to just see something that could make me dip it a little lower into the list, and it just wasn't there.
Okay, and well, hold on real quick. I gotta ask this because I was talking about this with SOS Wrestling Network. RIP to their channel, by the way. They got deleted as well.
I was about to say, do you have a Ouija board?
Yeah, I'm trying to channel my own fucking channel here. But no, I was talking to them about this earlier in the year, and I always boast about how much I love Hiromu versus Yano, and it's my match of the year, and I'm always joking when I fucking say that.
Oh,
but
I was about to say, what? Oh my!
I fucking joke when I say that, but I'm only half kidding. But for you guys, like, criteria-wise, can a primarily comedy, let's not even say comedy, can a fun match be in consideration for our top 10? Why or why not?
Of course.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not talking about like a Mat Classic or a 35-minute New Japan. I'm talking about a match that something similar to, not Stadium Stampede, but Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy and maybe that's not a good example, but something that you genuinely just enjoyed because it's not what the norm is. Like, can that be considered?
100%.
So I agree with Joseph. Joseph and I agree 100%. My thing is that I spend a lot of time trying to quantify what good is, and it's impossible.
Everyone has their own definition of it. So
everyone has their own definition of it, but it's like I try to discern, like, okay, what is it that, like, because I like a lot of bad things. I know that I do, but I feel like I can appreciate a good thing more often than not. Like, I can see a good thing and be like, okay, not for me. I understand that it's good, or the opposite, where it's like, I liked that. I understand that it's not terribly good. This isn't necessarily that, where it's like the appreciation that you can have and the fun that you can have in a match. This is why I think a rewatch is crucial, because something like Moxley versus Suzuki, where I watched that match when it initially happened, and I didn't like it because it's not for me. And I understand why people loved it, but it's not for me. When I rewatched it, stripping away any of the, like, you know, surprise and whatever, like, first experience, I watched it. I think that match is very boring. And I understand if people still love it, but I would be surprised if people loved it as much as they did the first time when they rewatched. That's why I think a rewatch is so crucial, because you have to, because once you strip away that big, the first time you're seeing something and everything in this match is fresh. Once you strip that away, once you strip results away, you're left with what the thing is. You can kind of judge it on its merits a little bit more. And that's why something like a comedy match will rarely make it into a top 10 or a top 20, because once you see it once, unless it's exceptionally good, then it's going to fade on rewatch.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't diminish how much you liked it when you first saw it. It doesn't even diminish you liking it afterward. But when you compare it and its merits of greatness to other things, I think a rewatch is going to hit it harder than it will hit a more traditionally good match harder.
Absolutely. And I think you can compare it to when you watch a movie when you're a kid. Let's say you are a big fan of, I don't know, Shark Boy and Lava Girl when you were a kid. And then when you watch it at 23 years old and you're like, huh. I mean, I see why younger me loved this movie, but it's a fucking, it's not what I remember it being. Like, it's something similar to that, I would say.
I didn't even like that movie when I was a kid.
It was an
man.
example, but listen,
be real.
I love that movie. I'm just making an example. But
How do you guys feel about The Rock's The Scorpion?
I've never seen it.
I have not seen that either.
But you know what?
That's my
My
one of my
grandmother
top
played
three
it all the time, and I always tried to avoid that movie because I don't know, the CGI scared me.
It's one of my 3 favorite movies. I know it's not good. It's dumb action movie, but I love it. And it's like part of it is I watched it when I was a kid, and
Exactly.
but I watched it. It's like it's a dumb action movie, but it's I still love it because I mean when you watch something for the first time, especially when you're young, you're gonna love it a lot more.
I think some people really underestimate how powerful something that's seemingly simple and not really built to be like a kind of match of the year
Yeah.
show stealing match can be. Because I have one of my top 5 matches of the year is something that's incredibly light-hearted in tone. It's not like 50 million minutes long. There's no titles on the line, but I think that it captured a tone. It captured the interest of the fans who were in the arena. And when I watched it back, it really held up. So I think absolutely something that's lighter or maybe just outright comedic could definitely be your match of the year.
In my
or top 10.
in my top 20, there are so many smaller scale, like just not matches that don't treat themselves with a gravitas that is like you have to pay attention. And it's like it's a lot of junior tag matches, a lot of just straight out junior matches, like lower key never title matches. Something like Goto versus Kenta is in my top 20 because it's like baby's first good title match where it's like, hey, these characters are clearly defined. They have their approaches. It elevates, it pays off, and it's like 15 minutes long. And everything about it pays off the story that they wanted to. It elevates into a good conclusion, and then they leave. And it's like that. I really enjoyed that because it doesn't treat itself like you have to pay attention to it. This is the most important thing of all time. It treats itself with importance of both of these guys want to win, but the match doesn't have an ego to it. And you can tell, and I say that, and it sounds so pretentious, but there are some matches that have a tangible ego to them, and you could feel it so palpably in specifically New Japan, and
Sure.
because that's my frame of reference. And I watch so many New Japan matches, and so many of these matches, even ones in my top 20, some of them are just so fucking pretentious that it's like there's a problem in New Japan and their system that is this, and a lot of the things that I like feel like they run counter to that, where they're not pretentious. They're just fucking honest and trying to be good matches, not trying to be the epic New Japan classic that they've been putting on for years that they used to do honestly.
Very true. And we're not going to hark on this way too long because I do want to move on to some other topics. But one last thing before we move on here. You don't even have to go too in depth with this one, but in your top 20 list, is there a cinematic match in there?
Oh, I only my top 20 is only New Japan. So
Is there a what?
Cinematic
Is there a
match.
no, I can't imagine for Joseph.
I'm sorry. I'm literally not understanding what you just said. One more time.
Do you remember the Boneyard match? That match?
Stadium.
Oh,
Stadium.
cinematic.
Yes.
Cinematic. Okay. I was struggling for a second there. Is there a cinema? What? No. What the fuck are you talking about?
I imagine in Tyler's top 20, there's gonna be Stadium Stampede, the Boneyard match.
Whoa, hold on. First of all, how did you end up accessing my
Yo,
top
I'm
20
not
list?
mad.
And
I'm not mad about Stadium Stampede making someone's top 20.
He's gonna have one
I'm
last
not.
pop in there or whatever.
whoa, hold on. First of all, I hated that match, so no, that's not gonna be in there. But no. All right,
I could see it making a top 100, but
maybe a top like 500.
No.
But yeah, close to that.
Sure, yeah, but I'm not. I mean, just cinematic matches in general. But like, I don't know, man. If that's your thing,
Yeah.
and you liked it this year, who's gonna stop you? But there's spoilers for all the subscribers. There's gonna be no cinematic matches on the year-end list.
Boo. Boo.
I think at the time I
Cherry
rated.
picker.
I think I rated Boneyard match as it wasn't even like a number. Let me
Well, I
look
mean, that
for it
match
on
set
my-
the bar for cinematic matches, so that's kind of like a special one in a sense.
Boneyard match.
Sure, and I think it's the one that worked the best. I liked it the best of
Mhm.
all the ones.
Which ones?
I
Boneyard
think
match or Stadium Stampede?
Boneyard match, but I do like Stadium Stampede. I think my rating for Boneyard was like fuck it out of 5. In a good way, in like a good way, I promise.
I remember I did like I watched it and I was like I watched it for the first time because I was like, oh, I want to see it. But I was recording stuff at the time, so I was like, I'm gonna get really drunk. Step 1, and step 2, I'm gonna watch it with my girlfriend who doesn't watch wrestling.
Mm.
She really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, because it's
Yeah.
not like a match. It's like you're watching
Yeah.
some type of movie or something. Of course, they will probably.
She was
A bad movie.
she was a big fan of The Undertaker, which I was like, come on, like AJ Styles, he has gloves on.
But did you
Undertaker's
show
a
her Stadium Stampede?
Fuck no. I
Yeah,
didn't
Corey,
watch
you're like,
Stadium.
yeah, no, I don't want to like lose her. So yeah, I don't.
Stadium
want
Stampede actually rules. It's
I'm
so
it
good.
rules, but I would not show a non-wrestling fan Stadium Stampede. They would not get.
Look, I'm sure Stadium Stampede is fun. I recognized that AEW and specifically something like Stadium Stampede, it's not for me.
Guys, if
And
this
I-
video
I
gets
don't-
150 likes, we're gonna force Forrest to watch Stadium Stampede.
Oh, and then he has to do a video.
Yup, 150, and it's gotta be within the first 48 hours too.
If we do,
Make it happen.
give me money and I'll do it.
Whatever revenue we get paid off of this, I'll give it to you. Spoiler
I live
alert,
by
I don't
two
come on
words.
monetize it.
Fuck you, pay me.
Very true. All right, so getting away from that, before we get into all the deep stuff, because we're 30 minutes in, and people are probably like, what the fuck's going on here? Why are they not talking about all the shit we want to know about? Let's get into some plugs, because I know a lot of you are probably here when they're like, oh, this is like the year-end awards for all three guys. We are actually doing a lot of these separately. We're going into some things that you're most likely going to want to hear, but not everything, because we're going to be doing that on our own channel. So real quickly, I'm going to be doing the top 50. We just talked about it for the last like 20 or so minutes. That's going to be starting this coming Wednesday and onward. And for you guys, what's coming up on your channels that everyone should be looking out for?
So I'll take point on this one. I've made a video titled "New Japan Isn't Good Anymore,"
Woo!
and
True.
it is kind of a review of the things that the problems with New Japan that is mixed with a top 20. And I give out my top 20 matches and I explain, and like the point of that was I wanted to make it clear that yes, these matches are good, but these matches can also tell you the problems with New Japan. And good matches being good, and there being 20 good matches, more than that, that doesn't make the company good. And here's why. That video is, by the time you're hearing this, it's already out on youtube.com/ForrestSova. I decided I'm going to be a decent for this podcast and not put it out until I'm done recording, because a lot of my points about New Japan, if we get to it, would just be recycled from that video, because it's all I've been. That video is done. It has been uploaded. I'm just waiting to click the make public button.
Yeah.
That is on youtube.com/ForrestSova. New Japan isn't good anymore. Don't get dissuaded by that time that's there. I promise you, it's long, but I think that it is one of the better things that I've made. And it's something that I think that is genuinely like kind of insightful, because it's very much, I don't like that people are So they dismiss New Japan's problems with evil, interference, COVID, blah blah, like quiet crowd. It's basic, it's boring, it's simple.
It's
like
everything except the actual issue at hand.
Yeah, it's like these are easily treatable. These are things that you can take care of pretty easily. Just have better matches. That's not gonna fix anything. And this video, it explains in depth why. And I feel like it does go into a lot, and it does go into a lot of things that I feel like a lot of people aren't going to think about. And you know, it's so that if I'm not enjoying New Japan anymore, I'd like to make this video to kind of explain why I'm going to make less New Japan stuff, watch less New Japan. So it's a video that kind of, it closes something of a chapter on my channel, and that's why it's an hour long. Pew pew!
For me, I am working on the 2020 The Year's Best in Wrestling. It's going to be the same format as the 1990 video that came out, which means, yes, it is also going to be quite long, but it's basically two videos. Basically 2 videos in one, so you can skip around. It's going to have my top 20 wrestlers of the year. It's going to have the top 20 matches of the year, and then some, I think I'll also do event of the year and promotion of the year. So it's my attempt to celebrate the things that I did enjoy this year in wrestling, which was very difficult. Even compared to like the 1990 video, it's much. I say a lot more about the entries. Some of them are like really mixed, even though they're probably still the best parts of the year. So there's gonna be some negativity in there. That's just inevitable. It's that kind of year, but that should be coming soon. I'm still waiting to see some stuff from the end of the year. I'm waiting for the end of DDT's big round robin tournament, because that might crack the list, and it might change up some people's cases for Wrestler of the Year. So the work on the script's begun. Pre-production has begun, but some things aren't quite locked in stone yet.
Can we expect it by the year end, or will it be something that happens like the very beginning of next year?
Well, the DDT final is on the 27th, so it's looking like you're going to have to wait till January.
Yeah. And honestly, that's when those things should be put out. Like I made my top 20 list, and I thought I should wait for the best of the Super Junior final.
And that's exactly why mine isn't finished yet.
Yeah, and I should wait for this, and I should wait for this. And the more that I watched, the more I realized I don't care. Like, it's not about the top 20. It's and I want to make it clear. In my video, I've had to clarify this. I didn't choose 20 matches to teach lessons about what's the problem with New Japan. I made the list, realized most of the shit that I have to say about this is spiteful towards New Japan. So I just merged the concept. I didn't make a list designed around this concept. I designed the concept around the list. So I didn't just make up a list of 20 matches that I liked. This is my top 20 of the year, but it doesn't include Hiromu versus Despy. It's not going to include whatever else happens in New Japan. If let's say the Super J Cup final is awesome, it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
The video's already made.
Yep, and that's all we have coming up for the end of the year. We're basically about to be over with this year, thank God. So the year we're closing out on it. When we first did our podcast, we were in the very center of it. We're in like July or whatever. So coming out of this year, we all know that it's been a horrible year, both in and especially out of wrestling. Was there a specific event that happened in wrestling that really made you like kind of rethink if you wanted to keep that fandom around that you've had since you first started? And then follow that up with what was the best thing that came out of this year that made you really proud to be a wrestling fan?
So I'll answer it first, just because mine is pretty simple. The thing that because to make it clear, I only watch New Japan. I dabble here and there with something like Stardom. I'm starting to get into Noah, but for the year, I've pretty much only watched New Japan. And one of the things that like I've been so negative about New Japan all year, and the thing that really made me like, okay, this is something that I can't just do it with New Japan anymore. Like I don't enjoy it, and like this moment, it just sort of pushed me over the edge was when like it was booking Ibushi versus Naito, despite Ibushi losing to White.
I love Ibushi so much, man. I really do.
Well, yeah, but like it doesn't matter if you love Ibushi. It's just awful.
So dumb.
Oh yeah,
awful.
and that's why it's like I love him, and I think that's why I'm trying not to hate that so much. But deep down inside, I think that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
It's awful, and the problem is that so many people, the defense of it is, but Ibushi Naito will be really good, and it just like defense of New Japan, the shield of New Japan for years now has been, but what about the matches? The matches, and I can understand that if you only are watching for the matches, but I only watch New Japan. Like I don't watch New Japan as a time off from AEW and from WWE. Like it's all I watch, and it's bad. And then this moment happens and they're just punting booking the biggest show of the year because they don't care, because they're going to make money regardless, because they have so much goodwill from people. And it's that moment I was just like, that wasn't the moment where I was like, I don't like New Japan anymore. That was when I realized, oh, New Japan, it's so far past just touching up a few things and then they'll begin to improve. No, it's going to take like bottoming out for them to be like, okay, we have to start our rebuilding process. And it's like that moment is just so much the point where I crossed over from I don't really like watching New Japan to New Japan is actively terrible and not worth saving the way it is right now.
For me, it was probably, I mean, this is an obvious answer for a lot of wrestling
Forrest, you
fans.
forgot to follow up with something good. Like, what was the best thing to come out of this year?
Oh,
nothing.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody's noticed this or if like I just watched my match of stuff, but and this is the same thing that has been pervasive throughout years, but juniors in New Japan are great.
Yeah.
Like it's so much better. Like with 1/20th the depth, they're way more interesting. Both singles and tag. Like the Never title this year, Shingo, like that was the singular best part of the year was Shingo's Never title reign. But Shingo's Never title reign was awesome in part because he started messing around with juniors.
Shingo and Despy.
And Shingo is a career junior wrestler. So you put him up as a heavyweight and you have him wrestle someone like Goto, someone like Suzuki, someone like Cobb in G1, someone like Jay White in G1. Yes, you're going to get a lot of great matches. And so the best thing that's gone throughout the year, both singles and tag, junior for the third year in a row has been easily the best part of New Japan, and they continue to be thought of as lesser than. And if they continue to just be like, yeah, junior is junior, like they're always been junior, they're little ones, they're junior. It's like, well, I mean, there's no point in salvaging this dumb company. But juniors are great. Just junior should succeed. Go make new junior pro wrestling. It'll be way better.
New junior pro.
For me, it was probably all the speaking out stuff. That's like an obvious answer. That that was sort of the downturn for me in terms of just productivity in general. It just put a really bad cloud over everything wrestling related all year, on top of this being just, the worst year in general. So like that's pretty easily the bottom of the barrel for me. But in terms of something good, I feel like I've been able to develop my taste in wrestling a little more this year. And I feel like I've gotten a little better at articulating things I do and don't like. So that's something, And, there's always good wrestling somewhere in the world. You just got to dig it up. You just got to find it. And I've always sort of relished the process of discovering that. So the more wrestling I watch, there's always something there to be loved and appreciated. So I think that was a positive.
For me, I'm kind of I'm kind of a little mad because both Forrest and Joseph stole my answers here. But going off of what Forrest said, I feel like for me, when I went to Japan earlier this year with Wrestle Kingdom, it was like one of the best life experiences I've had in my entire life. And when I came back, I feel like New Japan just took a big shit on me. Like they just threw everything they could to make me hate this fucking product. Like really pretty much starting from February with Okada and Taichi and then onward.
Can I say something really quick? I made a video earlier in the year before New Japan came back. It can be found on Spotify if you search up Forrest Soba. It's a video called New Japan Shouldn't Come Back from Quarantine.
Yep.
And that video was a little tongue-in-cheek. Turns out it wasn't.
No.
It was just talking about how New Japan is out of ideas and they don't have anything. They were building to putting the belt on Naito. Everything else had wrapped up. You don't need to come back. Just ride into the sunset.
Yeah, and I've said in the podcast that I felt like this was the end of New Japan. It felt like the end of a movie when Naito won the title.
Yeah. But as it turns out, that podcast, that video was way more correct than I intended it to be. It was meant to be a funny joke. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
We're all laughing.
Exactly, and it's like with the New Beginning show, everything just kind of felt like, all right, this is the epilogue, we're cool. Then COVID fucked everything up for New Japan. They went away for about, 3 or so months, I think. Then they come back, and then July comes around, and then TBSI decided we're going to nuke a bunch of channels. And that's, I think, where really a lot of my, I don't want to say hatred for New Japan, but a lot of the things that I really tried to shove away just started to come out a lot more, because a lot of the hard work I did for my channel revolved on New Japan. It went up in smoke, and when it came back, I had to delete all of it because they tried to make it go up in smoke again. So that's where I think a lot of it just kind of started, and then after effect, it was just like a domino effect. Like, okay, this thing I don't like, this thing I don't like. But I think for me, and Forrest said it earlier, the icing on top, and the thing that really nailed it in for me, was when they booked Kota Ibushi versus Tetsuya Naito for night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom. And I said in a previous video where I said that this is the worst built Wrestle Kingdom I've ever seen, that how do you have Kota Ibushi win G1 Climax again, which you guys know I'm the biggest Ibushi fan there is. You call me Ibushi stan, whatever the fuck. I love Kota Ibushi. Him winning G1 Climax again, I mean, as a fan, I loved it. As like a wrestling fan, if I had to disassociate myself from that Ibushi fandom, I think it was kind of like, okay. I mean, he already lost, but redemption arc. All right, I kind of get it. And then,
oh man, I remember being there with you, watching that G1 Climax final live, and just how flat and sort of resigned the reaction to it was from both you and a lot of your audience in the chat, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's like I was excited. Like, there's a difference between my excitement when he won this year and my excitement when he won last year. Like, when he won last year, I knew I was going to Japan. When he won this year, I'm like, great.
So at least it was
Sonata. Exactly. At least it wasn't Sonata. Like, if it was Ibushi versus like somebody else that wasn't Okada in the finals, I would have been like, I think my reaction would have been kind of different, honestly.
So I just want to clarify. Would you have been like, yeah, Ibushi, if you could go to Japan? Like,
no, well, see,
is that,
here's the thing though, because I wouldn't go to Wrestle Kingdom this year because this is garbage. So no, it wouldn't be the same way. But getting back to that, Ibushi wins, and I'm like, yay, great. Like, I love Ibushi, great. But he then loses to Jay White, and I'm like disappointed, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know what? Jay White was my pick to win the G1 anyway. I can't be too upset about this, and I really was only upset for like all of like 30 fucking minutes. But I'm like, you know what? Whatever. This is Jay White's time. Cool. He says January 5th. I'm like, well, what are they going to do with January 4th then? Because Ibushi already lost. And then I think it was one fucking day later, they're like, we're doing this match on January 4th.
Yeah, we're just gonna do it.
And I'm like, why the fuck did you have Jay White win? Why did you have Kota? Like, what was the point of all of this?
No,
I just made everything not fucking make any sense. And that's where I was just like, dude, I don't know what the fuck to feel about this company anymore. Like this.
I realized something just as you were bringing that up, because I forgot that Jay White said January 5th. And I was like, Oh, Jay White hasn't been around in New Japan because the briefcase is January 4th. They got to make another case. They can't have Jay White walking around with a briefcase that's January 4th after they booked this fucking match.
It's so dumb.
It's so
yeah,
dumb.
and in theory, when you first hear it, like, oh, I'm going to challenge you on January 5th, it's like, okay, it's Jay White. That's fucking smart. Challenge him when he's already been beaten down from January 4th. And I'm like, well, it's not going to be Okada because he's challenging Will Ospreay on January the 4th. It can't be Sonata because Sonata is a loser. It's like, it can't be Evil. Like, I'm running down the list and I'm like, I don't know who else will challenge him except for Ibushi. But I'm like, it can't be Ibushi because he just lost the briefcase. But then he got into the match because, and I think this is also stupid, Naito's like, if I don't get what I want, then I'm not showing up. And it's like, that's your plea? This is the booking. So Ibushi gets this unwarranted is basically what I'm getting from this entire storyline. Ibushi doesn't deserve this. That's what I keep coming back to. Ibushi lost, fair and square, not fair and square actually, but he lost. Even if Jay White cheated, he shouldn't be getting it. This is not his story. So if Ibushi wins a wrestle, and I wholly expect him to win. If Ibushi goes to Wrestle Kingdom and loses again, I will not fucking get any of this booking, honestly.
No,
so
you know what,
he has to win at this point. When he goes to Wrestle Kingdom and he wins, it's not going to feel as impactful because we've seen this happen and he lost already. And then he went to this point and he didn't deserve. Go ahead, Forrest.
I agree with the sentiment of going to Wrestle Kingdom. He should win. But I keep going back to, like, one, New Japan does this often, where they do this sometimes. Where think back to last Wrestle Kingdom, they didn't have to run Juice Robinson versus John Moxley, and I thought, why would they set that match up if not to have Juice beat John Moxley for the U.S. title? And then Juice lost to John Moxley, and it's like, what the fuck is this? They just made up a Juice Robinson title shot.
And you know what really scares me about this whole thing is when I think about it, I'm trying to think to the Okada and Naito storyline where Okada and Naito had 3 Wrestle Kingdom matches. Okada won the first one. Then everyone's like, this is Okada's moment. This is Naito's moment for Wrestle Kingdom 12. And then he lost again. And then he went to Wrestle Kingdom 14. And it's like, this is it. And it's like, yeah, he won, but it's like, he could have done it like 2 years earlier. And I feel like
my whole point with it is like they probably aren't gonna do it where Naito loses to Ibushi beats. They probably aren't gonna have like Ibushi have that match if he's not winning. But having that happen January 4th, it's like I can't imagine they run even a reduced audience Tokyo Dome on January 5th on a Tuesday. I can't imagine they run Ibushi versus Jay White as the main event.
I'm just trying to...
It doesn't even make sense. That's it. It didn't main event Power Struggle.
None of it really makes sense in my opinion. I guess they want to harken back to the whole, oh, well, Ibushi and Jay White had that match at Wrestle Kingdom 14, but it's like... But Ibushi... It's the wrong time. It doesn't feel like it's his time right now. If it was his time last year, but then
he doesn't have time. Ibushi's a fucking career. He's a career tag guy. That's his whole time. He has
his time was last year and he didn't do it, and now they're trying to make it his time now, and it's like, but you went about it the wrong way, man. It doesn't feel like it.
His time was last year. It wasn't Naito's time 2 years late last year. Ibushi has no time. There's no time for Ibushi. He crossed over when. He's like, oh, his time might have been his time. If Tetsuya Naito wasn't 10 times more popular than he was, maybe it would have been his time. Ibushi doesn't have a time. The man's 70. Leave him be. He doesn't get a time.
Hold on, why are you acting like Naito and Ibushi aren't the same fucking age?
Because Naito is more popular than Ibushi. Naito doesn't worship people the same age as him. Naito isn't like, man, Tanahashi, oh my God. That's not his whole character.
You know what?
Fuck Ibushi. I hate Ibushi.
I still love Ibushi, and I feel like my love for Ibushi is a lot of the reason why I'm not eviscerating New Japan over this decision. I mean, I'm still critiquing them because I think it's fucking stupid, but I mean, if I had to say one positive that came out of this year, it's really hard to pinpoint what a positive that came out this year is. I feel like I kind of almost have to say almost the tail end when I'm doing this top 50 and I'm exploring other promotions, honestly. because you almost kind of forget what else is out there when in the very beginning of the year, your only option was WWE and AEW. And then you're kind of just starting to, figure your way back into everything, and not everything's complete. Things don't feel the same because there's no crowd, or there's things that don't feel the same about it, so you kind of are discouraged from watching some of it. And now it's like, okay, I'm exploring a lot of these other options, and it's like, okay, wrestling is still somewhat good in a sense, but overall 2020 just fucking sucks. So all of that out of the way, we get to a lot of the juicy stuff. So I wanted to make a best of. Now, I know we're doing year-end awards to some extent, all of us are, which is why I didn't want to do a whole like subcategory thing. So I chose really 3 categories: best match by company, best wrestler by company, and we're going to rate the companies 0 from 10 by the end. So we're going to start off with the best match by company, and from this category we're going to be talking about Stardom / Joshi Wrestling, because I don't want to just talk about Stardom here. If you watch TJPW, if you watch Seed Lightning, if you watch, Marvelous or whatever, then we can talk about that as well. Independent Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor. I've said all other Japanese wrestling, like New Japan's the top one, but there's All Japan, there's fucking Big Japan, there's, East Japan, whatever the hell. There's a bunch of other things you can talk about there. WWE as a whole, so not just NXT, but, Raw, SmackDown, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then All Elite Wrestling. So, let's start off with Stardom and Joshi Pro Wrestling. So let's not spend too much time on these, because we don't want this to be like 4 or 5 fucking hours like it was last time. But from Stardom and Joshi Wrestling, what was your best match from this company? Now, if this is like your number 1, number 2, number 3, then you can kind of not speak on it, or just kind of layman's kind of sort of speak on it. But for me, and I think this might be just everyone's top Joshi Wrestling, but I think for me it's Takumi Iroha versus Mayu Iwatani. That match kicks so much fucking ass. And I'm the first one
or the second
the first one.
Which
the second one,
bitch?
Listen, the second one was great, but the first one is where like everything just kind of felt like, all right, this is almost the standard for women's wrestling for me, at least.
I've actually heard the second one is better from a couple people, but
I can arguable.
I'll watch it eventually.
Arguable.
I liked the first one. I didn't love the first one, but I also watched it under compromising circumstances. Wasn't the best to watch. I didn't watch a ton of Stardom. So I'm going from like a very small. So what I remember is loving Kagetsu's match with Tam Nakano at the anniversary. I remember like that match is amazing. The match is like 7 minutes long. It tells the whole thing. It has like big elevation spots. It's like it's a great epic in like 7 minutes. But I think a consolation thing is this is something that is, I wouldn't call this like a classic or anything, but it's something that I really really enjoyed. It's I'm gonna give 2 just as a kind of honorable mention thing. One is Konami versus Azumi in the Cinderella. It's like 3 minutes long and it rules. Like Konami is great and Azumi is great, and this is a great match. The other one is Mayu Iwatani versus Starlight Kid in the 5. That match, it takes a minute to get into it, but once it does, they just keep going up and up. Like Mayu really has to coax out, like, hey, we're gonna do a good match from Starlight Kid. And once Starlight Kid kind of recognizes that, then they start cooking and they start doing some great stuff. But those are probably the 3 matches that pop into my head as the ones that I watched that really jump out to me as the ones that I enjoyed from Stardom.
Joshi is like a huge, gigantic blind spot to me, but I did see the first Mayu versus Takumi match from February, so that's going to be my answer just by default. According to my spreadsheet, it's the 32nd best match of the year.
Ooh,
so
getting spoilers. Let's go.
Good for them. Well, it's only 20 and up on the video,
Only
so
on
I
the
can tell you
Tyler
stuff.
Mass YouTube channel will you get scoops like this, ladies and gentlemen.
It's an exclusive. It's an exclusive honorable mention. But yeah, it's a great match. Lots of bumping. It's built around Takumi Iroha trying to slam the life out of a very skinny lady, and it rules. It's great.
It's amazing.
Do you know the very skinny lady's name?
Of course I do.
Wait, is it
She's
is
like-
it
she's
Iwatani
like
or
a
is it
lot of
Iwatani?
people's-
How do you say it, Joseph?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, but
It's
a lot of
Iwatani.
people have Mayu as their like women's wrestler of the year.
I've heard.
So
Really,
but I
and that's
know nothing about it.
My rules.
All right, so I do have to agree with Forrest though. Like Kagetsu and Tam Nakano was like I would say second best in my opinion. But going into independent wrestling now, Joseph, you're a connoisseur, so I'm gonna start with you first.
Joseph, insight.
Okay, let's
Hold
go
on.
with
Is it Judas Icarus versus
Whatever.
Daniel Makabe?
What fucking
You know,
match happened in Maine in the middle of August?
If you had asked me like a few months ago, it would have
Damn, I
been.
was close.
But the rewatch docked some points from it. Sadly, currently the best indie wrestling match of the year is Yuki Ishikawa versus Daisuke Ikeda from WXW's Ambition 12 tournament. It was like a super fight. For some reason, WXW is like the only company, or like is a company that just decided to just book battle arts matches from the 2000s, and they just do that sometimes, and it's great. It's two old dudes punching each other in the face, and I don't think I need to sell you guys any more than that. Like that should be just immediately appealing to all people.
Is it like one of those like Ishii Suzuki battles?
Ugh. What?
You know, it's even better because Ishii and Suzuki, they don't punch,
The elbow.
and punches are like
Are we talking like close
When you-
fist?
closed
Damn,
fist
it's like that
to the
You
face.
gotta fucking
Yeah,
drop
yeah.
a link.
It's
at the
great.
show.
I'll send you I'll send you
Alright.
guys a link to it for sure.
Forrest.
What? What are you asking me? Hear that I only watch New Japan? This is a Joseph.
You didn't watch
question.
now one independent wrestling match this year. Not one.
No, I didn't watch any.
Damn,
What-
alright.
There's not a lot of independent
And you know, to be
wrestling
fair,
worth seeing.
independent wrestling almost got killed off this year, so I can understand that. For me, it might be a little bit of an easier answer because, like I said, independent wrestling was kind of scarce this year. But for me, I gotta give it to Jonathan Gresham versus Lee Moriarty from Joey Janela Spring Break, which was the only great match on that fucking show, by the way. That match was
Excellent
just
choice.
excellent. I loved everything about it, from all of the intricate body manipulations that Jonathan Gresham was doing, from the selling of Lee Moriarty. It was just an amazing match. I don't spend too much time on it. But getting from that, Impact Wrestling. Be honest. Did any of you even watch Impact?
Yo,
outside of
for
actually,
real?
you know what? Real quick, I want to even know this. Did you guys watch Impact Wrestling last week?
Yeah, I did.
I
Just
did.
for the promo.
You could just be on Twitter, Joe.
I know.
I broke a streak.
Hey, broke force. Let's go.
I broke a streak a few years ago that had been standing for like nearly 10 years. I just didn't watch it, and so I'm trying to rebuild that streak back up, and I'm at a couple years now. I'm at about 2 or 3. I'm 2 or 3 years Impact sober, so I didn't want to break that to watch a Kenny Omega
It's,
pro.
Impact sober.
I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch a Kenny Omega promo. What are you talking? But I will say that I was on Twitter being on. So you know, it's
count it.
it's like I'm dry. I'm sober, but I am drinking an O'Doul. Like I'm drinking. It's 0.5%, but there is alcohol in it.
All right, so I didn't watch a lot of Impact this year. I think I only watched 3 shows, but of the shows I watched, the answer from me is Jordan Grace versus Deonna Purrazzo from Slammiversary. That, in my opinion, is like one of the best women's matches of the year. It was 10 minutes, but it was beautifully executed by Deonna Purrazzo and her limb work over Jordan Grace's arms and Jordan Grace's power moves. And, you know, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was a great match. I love that much about Impact.
On my spreadsheet of 624 matches that I rated this year, none of them are from Impact Wrestling.
Damn.
Literally 0.
Oof.
Oh yeah.
So
Honestly, why would you ever need to watch? Even
exactly.
Yeah.
even with Kenny Omega crap, if you're on Twitter, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I only watched.
I've
3 shows,
watched-
so.
Nothing from that promotion. So there you go.
All right.
I hear the Motor City Machine Guns are good now.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
they're not as good as they.
What do you
10
mean
years
now?
ago, but
What do you mean
they
now?
always been great.
Listen,
What the fuck does that mean now?
listen. Like, they've been going through like injury issues for years.
Yeah.
And they've been
Sure.
And the people that I talk to, like my friend who watches Ring of Honor, apparently, like I watched Motor City Machine Guns in TNA in the late 2000s. And they were awesome. My favorite tag team by a mile. Apparently, they were like, yeah, they were in Ring of Honor. They were never as special. And with all of their injury issues and like retirements and things like that, apparently they're back in Impact, and apparently they're back to feeling good and special. That's what I meant. Not that they weren't special and good at one point, but with so many issues that have arisen, apparently, this is what I've heard through the grapevine, they're back in Impact. They're back feeling like the Motor City Machine.
Interesting.
Huh. All right. Ring of Honor. For me, Wheeler Yuta versus Jonathan Gresham. And I gotta
Surface
say
pick.
that because I've only watched like maybe like 3 or 4 Ring of Honor matches this year. But I enjoyed it.
Basic
Good
pick.
pick.
That's
Good
the
pick.
that's the pure title match. That's the pure.
Yeah, it
tournament
was the
match
opening round. No.
Yeah,
was it the
that-
opening round or second round?
It was opening
Okay.
round. It was that was the pure tournament match that got like the buzz.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it, but I didn't love that match nearly as much as I loved Jay Lethal versus Tracy. Like, if Jay Lethal versus Tracy Williams, which is the pure tournament semifinal, if I saw that match and didn't get spoiled, Tracy Williams, that match would be high on a you need to watch this match for 2020. I loved that match. I loved the pure tournament in general, and I think that it exemplifies how much depth that format has. Like, the problem that I have with Gresham and Yuta is that while it capitalizes on some things, it still kind of inherently treats the pure rule set as a gimmick. ROH kind of goes into it like it's a gimmick. It's like it's technical wrestling, and it's like, oh, it has to be more legitimate. Whereas Jay Lethal's matches, I enjoyed all of them because he was having a regular match just with a little bit more restrictive rules. And I think that you can have any style of match. It's just these are rules that you have to adhere to. You don't have to play into them. It's cool if you do, but you don't have to play into them. You don't have to have great rope break spots. It's cool if you do, but you don't have to. And what I loved about Tracy Williams versus Jay Lethal is that it felt just like a great match, and these rules were there and the rules factored in, but it showed me how much you can do with just like, hey, these are rules and follow them, like a sport. And I think that generally with Ring of Honor, just the entire pure tournament, if you're going to watch something, like a block of something from this year, watch a tournament. Just watch the pure tournament. I promise you it's the best tournament I've seen this by a mile.
That's fair.
great.
Fair game,
It's
fair game.
That is fair, yeah.
legitimately great. Everything about it, I loved it. It made me consider watching Ring of Honor. I'm not gonna. I'm holding
not
strong in
there
that
yet.
result.
Not there
Oh
yet.
my god, don't do it.
I'm holding strong in that
Mike
result.
Bennett is back, and like, why?
Listen, on one of these pure shows, they had one of
EC3?
they had one of the Matt Taven guys come out, and
Oh,
him and Matt
Vincent.
Taven, him and Matt Taven had a brawl, and I was just watching. I was like, no,
No, don't do it.
no. Because this is like the 6th show on the pure tournament. It's like, no, you guys are doing no. Because honestly, Ring of Honor, just be a pure company and just do that. And it would rule. Like, don't play it up as a gimmick. Don't play it up as like, oh, this is different. Because that's just wrestling. Just have rules and adhere to the rules like a sport.
I have 2 answers for ROH. Just looking at my spreadsheet, my favorite match from the pure tournament was Tracy Williams versus Fred Yehai. I love
that was great.
Yeah.
I love Fred Yehai. I don't know why he's not being booked like just everywhere. He's fantastic. And Tracy Williams was actually probably my pure title tournament MVP, like just slightly ahead of Gresham. He's fantastic. But there was another match from earlier in the year that I think is worth mentioning. It's the Briscoes versus Bandito and
I heard a
Flamita.
lot of good things
And
about
that was just a big, yeah, it was just a big fireworks show. They just did a bunch of cool shit. And it was pretty cool. You know, wrestling doesn't have to be hard. You know, you just do some cool stuff for 15 minutes, go home. It's great.
All right. All other Japanese promotions not named New Japan.
So there's one answer to this, and I don't want to say it because I know that Joseph has it in his top 20. Pretty high too.
Yeah, we can. I'll give a different answer though, because there's a few good answers.
Red
to this
herring, boo.
I will give a different answer as well. I saw this match the other day, so it's a little mixed. But this is Takashi Sugiura versus what is it?
Shizaki?
Masato Tanaka,
Oh, okay,
I think.
was it.
Yeah, Masato Tanaka. Those two are a combined like 99 years old, and they move with like a crispness and purpose. And it was a match that it was like their first show back, and it was like the empty arena, and so there's no sound. And the two of them have just like Masato Tanaka is so good, and he's so crisp, and he moves so well for someone who's 49. Like not even for someone who's 49, he just moves well. And Sugi he's awesome. Like the match is genuinely really really good. And a quick shout out to Kino versus Sakuraba. 10 minutes long. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I can understand if people didn't love it. I thought it was good. Could have been better. But the ending of Sakuraba has Kino in a calf slicer, which, you know, any legitimate submissions that are happening in wrestling, I'm all for it. And Sakuraba's probably a good guy to go to for that. But Kino like bridging at the end, like to basically lean into the calf slicer for 3, I think that match is really good.
For me, I'm gonna go with Kato Kiyomiya versus Go Shiozaki.
That's a good one.
From January 4. The best title match in Japan to happen on January 4th, 2020.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Yep. You know, they did the epic style formula well. It was built around Go Shiozaki's arm because that's his whole thing this year. But he powered through it, and it started off this reign that everyone really loves, and I think this was sort of a great way to start it off. You know, they still had a crowd. It was really lively in Kurikan Hall, and it's just an excellent Japanese-style main event title match, and I think everyone should go out of the way to see that one.
Okay, so I'm gonna be quite frank with you guys. I don't watch like as much outward Japanese wrestling as they do, so my answer may be a bit more, you know, easier. But I recently just saw Go Shiozaki versus Katsuhiko Nakajima, and I enjoyed that match a lot. I didn't enjoy a lot of the, you know, 15-minute long striking exchanges, but I enjoyed that match overall.
That's the great
You see,
part.
that's so weird. Tyler told me this before as well, and I said that's the only part of the match I like.
Like, I like strike exchanges. I just don't like really long ones. I'm like, okay, I get it.
What'd you think about Ibushi Taichi, you fuck?
I'm not. I wasn't really big a fan of that either.
Okay, fair enough.
a great idea.
Yeah, no, I gotta keep it consistent. I can't say I like one, not the other, man.
All right. Fair enough. I was hoping to catch you being an Ibushi fan and being like, oh no, that match was great, but this match was different. It's like,
I didn't hate the match, but like after like the 10-minute mark, I'm like, all right, what's going on with
fair enough, I'll give it to you. I was trying to snatch you, but it's, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but
that match was good though. Joseph's too hard on it. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, Joseph's a heavy critic, so that's part of it. All right, moving on. Everyone's favorite company, WWE. All right, hold on.
Oh,
Count of 3,
well.
we're all gonna say our answers. All right,
Woo!
3, 2, 1.
Brian versus AJ.
Ilya versus Volta.
Boneyard match.
I just love all our different answers.
I can count the WWE matches that I liked on one hand. Like that, not that I liked, that I watched. I don't think that I watched more than 4 matches, and I don't remember. I remember the Boneyard match. I remember I watched it. But I don't know if I really watched anything.
All right. What's your runner-up?
Did you not just hear me? I didn't watch. I don't
I'm
remember
talking
anything
about.
else.
I was talking to Joseph directly. I meant. My bad.
Oh, runner-up to Brian versus AJ is Brian versus Drew Gulak from Elimination Chamber.
You know, I was there, and I thought that was a great match, but I did not rank it.
Man, you gotta see it again.
That's
it's
maybe what I have to
brilliant,
see
dude.
again. Because for me, I tend not to watch matches I was there for because it's like I was fucking there. But you know, that's one of those.
No, those are the
where it's
ones.
Like,
Those are especially the ones. You
it's
have
one
to
of those
see.
things where, like you got. Oh, I watched a lot of them back. Like all of Wrestle Kingdom, I had to watch back for my top 50.
You have to watch everything you see live. You have to watch it again because that is so crucial. Because something that I was at G1 Supercard, and I watched it, and by the end of the show, I was like, oh my god, what the show is hours long.
Hey, at least you weren't like me and went to G1 Supercard and then JJSB3 because that was the wrong decision to make.
But dude, like I had a bus that I was gonna go to because I was staying in New Jersey, and this fucking show went past when the bus left, and it's like I don't know how I'm gonna get back to Airbnb. This fucking show never ends. And then at some point, I rewatched Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada from G1 Supercard.
Dude,
Guess what?
Sucks.
That match, toilet.
Yeah,
It's one
So
of
bad.
See, that's one of those things where you
Horrible.
love it when you're there, and then you watch it back, and you're like, "This was
You know
so long for no reason."
I will say, I didn't care for it when I was there. I was too tired. I was like, I just want to go home, but I have to watch it. But something that I did turn on, I didn't much care for Ibushi versus Naito on that. It's better, obviously, than Jay White Ibushi, the Jay White Okada from the show. But that show, and with New Japan shows in America in general, a lot of the times these guys they're playing the hits.
Exactly.
And it's good. It's there for the live crowd who don't get to see the hits all the time. But when you rewatch it, I get nothing from Ibushi Naito at G1 Supercard that I can't get from their New Japan Cup match 3 weeks prior.
Fair game. I mean, for my runner-up, my red herring answer is the men's Royal Rumble match.
Can you define red herring for me really quick, Tyler?
I think he just means number 2. That's it.
Because
You're second.
Because when he said red herring, it's like, I don't think that's how that's used. And then he used it again, and it's like, what is a red herring? Am I wrong?
mean, my understanding is the false answer, unless I'm getting it mixed up with something else.
That's a decent enough definition of it.
Close enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I thought you were just being like, oh, it's not the number one.
No,
but it's
not
two.
number 2. All right.
Fair
Listen,
enough.
history
All right.
lesson then. Explain to me what a red herring is. Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
I mean, a red herring
Distraction.
it's someone who's just it's a distraction.
All right, okay, so
something
yeah,
that
I got a good understanding of it because I always thought it was like the false narrative is the red herring. So I got it kind of.
It's no, you're not entirely
Ish.
incorrect.
Yeah.
Ish. Adjacent. You're right, adjacent.
Fair enough. All right, everyone's second favorite promotion, All Elite Wrestling. I can't. I gotta give a false one because like my favorite one is in my top 3, so I gotta go on my list. Like, what's one?
Did I watch one AEW match? I don't think I did. Did I?
I've actually been spoiling stuff from the top 20, but because it's by promotion, people don't know the order, so it's
Exactly,
fine.
but like for me, like the one I want to say is in like my top 5, so I can't say that one.
Mine is in my top 5 also. So I'll give one from my top 10, okay? So
Okay.
Fair game.
Stadium Stampede.
John Moxley versus Eddie Kingston.
Kenny Omega versus Pac.
Full Gear. That's a great answer too, though.
Yeah.
That might be an even better answer than mine, honestly. That match is so
That
good.
is, without a doubt, the best Dynamite match in AEW history, in my opinion.
I think easily, yes.
Exactly.
It's so well structured, and Kenny is just on point that night. His selling in the last 15, 20 minutes. It's so good. It's one of the few times he's actually sympathetic, and it's wonderful.
My only imperfection with that match is really the ending when they did the restart and then Kenny just kind of won immediately. That's my only imperfection with the match. Everything else about it was just amazing.
I honestly didn't mind it. I thought it was one of the few times that the runtime was earned, and they kept up the pace so beautifully through the whole thing. Oh, love! It's a great match.
Fair game.
Yeah, I don't think I watched a single AEW match this year. I'm trying like hell to think. And granted, my WWE match was the Boneyard match, so I would argue that I didn't watch a WWE match either. But I am so drawn a blank. I don't know. I don't think I watched a single AEW match.
Huh. All right, so we just got done our best matches by company. Now let's get into best wrestler by company. So starting with Stardom and
This is
other
fun.
Joshi wrestling
This is a
companies.
fun one.
I am going to say that the one person who has just been consistently been like I feel like with best, I have to try to differentiate your best from your favorite, which wrestling fans tend to forget about
Yeah,
all this fucking time.
not just wrestling fans, everybody. No one can differentiate those.
So if I have to say my favorite, it's Azumi or Tam Nakano. But the best, I think, is Mayu Iwatani. I think that's just the guy to give it like one. Mayu Iwatani was the best one.
I mean, it's between Mayu or if you're into that, Julia.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I mean, she's good, but she's not that good.
I mean, she's. I mean, you know, she wears a badge and a gun to the ring. She's a cop, and her whole faction's full of cops. But and then Stardom's been co-opted by cops, more cop factions, non-cop. But Mayu's probably the right answer. She based on everything I saw, like Utami's probably a great answer as well.
She's
Utami's been great all year. Utami's great. I'll go Utami just because she didn't hold a world title all year, so it's like she had to do stuff that weren't big, high-profile main events, and she was pretty comparable to Mayu, so adjusting for inflation.
Fair game.
I have zero to add to this discussion. I don't watch Joshi regularly. I wasn't even able to see most of the like really highly hyped Stardom matches, so this one's all you guys.
Joseph's a sexist.
Ooh, damn. It's like that.
Ooh. God, we got some ammo to cancel. Joseph with gonna get.
I'm exposed. I'm exposed.
You know, Joseph survived the TBSI Infinity War. Me and Forrest, we got sucked up into that. Joseph didn't actually get canceled yet, so.
Look, we get Malas. I mean, look, if we can cancel Manny Pacquiao, we can cancel Joseph. One of them.
We'll figure it out. Forrest will conspire it later. We'll conspire it later. He's here. We won't do it to his face.
Yeah, just wait. Just wait until there's a report button for misogyny on YouTube, Joseph. It's perfect.
Let's be real, that's not happening. No way YouTube's gonna let that happen.
All right, so independent wrestler of the year,
Joseph.
Joseph.
I'm gonna give this one to Tony Deppen.
All right. I could go with that.
He stays busy. You know, he was one of those guys who was consistently getting booked all over America when shows started running back up over there, and he's one of the few guys I actually like on the American independent scene right now. And the problem with that is he keeps getting booked against people I don't like. But when he's in there with someone that I feel can keep up with him, he's easily the highlight of any of the indie shows that he's on. He's excellent. I don't know if he has plans of signing with the WWE or AEW. He probably could if he wanted to, because they'll hire anybody. But I hope he sticks around on the independents and just kind of keeps building a name for himself for the next 3-5 years, hopefully.
What'd you think of Tony Deppen in the Pure tournaments?
Man, any other guy in that tourney, please. Like
I thought I
was so bummed by it.
I've Tony Deppen one time, and it was the Pure tournament. So I think Tony Deppen is the biggest fucking dweeb. And it's
so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the look of him, I hate it. It's the look of him. I didn't like it. I didn't care for his wrestling. He looked like in that he looked like just a less athletic Chucky T without the charm of Chucky T. And it's like based on what you're saying, he's probably fine. He's probably good. but man, that is a bad impression.
No, they did him dirty putting up against PJ Black, and then he's out in the first round too. So it's like, you know, can't win all your battles. But if you see him in like some grimy indie like ICW no holds barred where they don't have ropes, they have chains. Oh, it's great. He's delightful.
Here's the thing about indie wrestling companies. You could have just made that name up. And it's
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah, it's all
not
one
true.
umbrella, right?
That's a real company.
They're all exchanging talent.
No.
And you know, he had one of my favorite spots all year where he was trying to. He had a door. He had the shards of a broken door, right? And he was trying to double stomp it into a guy who was bent over at the waist, but he misangled the door, so he just kind of ended up stabbing the edge of the door into Mance Warner's neck. Just the best possible botch. It's just when it just looks so much more painful
Yeah,
after.
that sounds very painful.
Beautiful.
Sounds beautiful though. For me, I feel like this is really hard for me because I don't watch a lot of independent wrestling, so I had to go with my favorite. I was really impressed anytime I saw Calvin Tankman in the ring. That guy is just so impressive for his size and stature.
It's not a bad answer. Yeah, that's a decent answer. He's gonna get a few more bookings soon. I know he's working with MLW right now, so yeah, I like him. I think that people have mostly played to his strengths. He's not always in there for a crazy amount of time, so he doesn't feel overexposed. He doesn't have the pressure to do like a 50-minute epic or anything. He's just a fun hoss guy,
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's a good pick.
I think my second answer would have been Christian Casanova. That would have been my first, but I haven't seen enough of him this year, so I couldn't say that, honestly. You don't have one, right? Right, Forrest? You don't have one? Yeah, no, I don't think I have one. All right. Best wrestler of the year for Impact Wrestling.
I mean, Motor City Machine
yeah, I
Guns.
guess
Clearly,
collectively Motor City Machine Guns.
I guess
I
clearly
think-
it's Motor City Machine Gun.
I think by default it's just kind of just Alex Shelley more than
More than
the
Chris
Motor
Sabin?
City
All right,
Machine
yeah,
Gun.
all right.
Like Alex Shelley is such a great just influence on the business. He's been helping a lot of guys on the indies
Yeah.
get put eyes on them. I know he brought up like Trey Lamar and I think
Lee
Moriarty also
and,
got a
what's his
booking.
name? Just
Yep.
signed with WWE. Ben Carter? Yeah, Ben Carter, I think.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, Alex Shelley is excellent. He's been excellent. I've mostly seen him on the indies, but he's also in Impact, so he's probably the best wrestler there too. I don't know.
If I couldn't say that tag team, I would say Chris Bay. Chris Bay is just always awesome when I see him in a ring. Ring of Honor. God, I really don't.
Jonathan
Yeah,
Gresham.
Based on the pure tournament, it's the only thing I've seen. Tracy Williams.
That's fair
game,
also.
game. All right.
Williams is excellent.
New Japan Pro Wrestling.
This is the easiest answer in the world.
Hiromu Takahashi.
Oh my God. Shingo
Ah.
Takagi. Shingo, it's so easily Shingo that like
you know what?
I'll concede. I'll come to an agreement that there's two answers. There's a couple acceptable answers. Hiromu's one of them. I think it's clearly Shingo.
I think Shingo is the other correct answer, in my opinion.
I think
if we're
Shingo is
just talking about New Japan, it's pretty far and away Shingo.
it
I
has
feel like
to
the
be Shingo.
more
Like,
I
it's
hear
not-
it, I think the more my answer leans more towards Shingo now.
There are guys like Suzuki was great for a lot of the year. He didn't end the year doing particularly much. He didn't do a lot before the COVID shutdown. After the COVID shutdown through G1, he was great. Someone like Tanahashi didn't do much before COVID shutdown. But his stuff with the tag division that like he made people think that New Japan cared about a tag division because he just was making up stories out of his ass. Then he had a great G1. Then he had a really good feud with Kenta that ended in a good match. Then he's like, the reason why I'll mention Tanahashi is because people will talk to me and say, man, Hinare looks great in World Tag League.
People
And
watch
it's like,
the World Tag
you're-
League?
You're praising Hinare to me, and he's tagging with Tanahashi. And I guarantee you when Tanahashi leaves Hinare, Hinare will go back to being
Nothing.
he'll be an anthropomorphic shrug, which is what he's been his whole career. he got put with Tanahashi. Tanahashi gets taken out of the match immediately, and Hinare goes and wrestles because he has to wrestle 2 people. It's captivating because he's trying, blah, 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 blah. But Tanahashi, he made Ibushi compelling this year. Impossible to do, apparently. Ibushi is just, he's so much there. He put over Dangerous Tekkers as a great tag team and as a dominant champion.
Yeah.
He had a great G1. He tricked people into thinking that there was a tag division, and he's making people think Hinare is good. If you said Tanahashi was Wrestler of the Year, you can't base it on matches. It has to be based on impact. But I would not hate you if you said Tanahashi. Shingo had less impact, a lot more better matches. He also had impact. It's clearly Shingo.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Shingo answer. I agree with that one. All right.
I mean, Shingo's the only guy who could carry Kazuchika Okada's
He literally
battered
gave him
carcass
the only great match
to a
this year.
great
If
match.
we're not counting January, because January is in 2020, he's the only person who gave Okada his best match of the year. So yeah.
Wrestle Kingdom is different. Like, people try their heart out for Wrestle Kingdom. You can't judge Wrestle Kingdom and be like, oh no, Okada can still go. Look at the Naito match. It's like, well, Wrestle Kingdom's
Exactly.
different.
Okada's probably going to pull the best match out of his ass against Ospreay, and then he's going to go back to being shit for the rest of 2021.
No,
so.
that match. But Okada Shingo in G1 is the best Okada non-Wrestle Kingdom main event in probably 2 years. Like, you have to. It's better than anything he did in 2019. And it's better than almost everything he did in 2018.
Are we talking non G1 2019? I mean, well, G1 2019 as well?
Yeah, absolutely G1. What did he do in G1 29?
I ain't gonna lie. I was kind of a sucker for Ospreay and Okada in that year. I haven't watched the back since then, so my opinion might change.
It was fine. It was good. It was pretty good. But it was good. It didn't go beyond that. Shingo Okada was legitimately very...
Yeah. Agreed. All right. All other Japanese wrestling, I can't really speak on this one.
I mean, just based on what I've heard, you'd have to go with Go Shiozaki, right? Like, the people who talk about him, and obviously it's Noah fans who are trying to put over the guy, but it's like, he's someone who you probably could have an outside pick for Wrestler of the Year in general, and it wouldn't be crazy because, like, you've been the top champion all year. You've had a bunch of different matches that hit different for different people. And so it's like, I mean, he's had the most opportunities, so it's probably...
Not mad at the Go pick. His last few title matches haven't really been for me, but, you know, people are... Even when I don't like the matches, I really like Go.
Yeah.
He's so endearing. His selling is so strong. And he's just genuinely sympathetic through all these matches. And again, he's putting in these great performances in matches I don't like. So he's in this weird spot for me. But if you do like those title matches as a whole, then it's far and away Go Shiozaki. I think for me personally, my best Japanese wrestler outside of New Japan would probably be someone from DDT, maybe Yuki Ueno, who they've been putting a lot of shine on recently. He's like their kind of newest young prospect that they're steadily pushing towards the main event. I've really enjoyed seeing him progress in that way, and he's been in a really great tag team this year with Naomi Yoshimura as Nautilus, so he's probably my pick. He's up there. He had a great year.
All right, WWE. To be a troll, I'm gonna say Pat McAfee. But if I'm gonna be honest,
fuck me, man. Jesus Christ.
Maybe because I feel like every person that I liked, I've become so distant from this company that I almost don't like them as much anymore. If you asked me at the very beginning of the year, I probably would have said Bianca Belair.
Well, why would we ask you at the beginning of the year?
Well, because at the end of the year, I almost don't have a fucking answer for you right now.
Well, if you asked me the best wrestler of 2020 in January 2020, it would probably be this person, but no one asked me because it was January.
Exactly. I'm gonna.
No, it's Daniel Bryan.
I was about to say Daniel Bryan too. Cop out.
Let's all chill the fuck out.
Daniel Bryan
And-
wrestled like for 2 months this year.
He wrestled like a pristine 6 months. Just
And I'll also
fucking-
say, isn't the most responsible thing in 2020 to not wrestle?
absolutely. So if you tell me that like Sami Zayn's the wrestler of the year, why not? He went away forever.
True. He came
And
back
he-
to like
he
one of the
came back
best
and won a
matches
belt.
of WWE's year. So yeah, true.
If you said Roman was the best, it's probably
That's
sure.
it. That's too easy of a cop-out answer. That's why I couldn't choose him.
Yeah,
Man, I wish I liked heel Roman more because I love the idea. I love the ideas in this character right now, but it's not all coming together. But you know, the correct answer is the simplest one. It's the greatest wrestler of all time.
work.
All right, All Elite Wrestling. Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega
Jon Moxley.
consistently had the best, and I feel like people kind of just undermine this because he's not having New Japan epics. But when you look at his year overall, there is no one who had a more consistently great work rates than Kenny Omega did this year. So he's my answer.
You're not wrong about that. That is absolutely correct.
Like
He's been having so many great matches.
what I glean is the difference between the person who has the best matches and the MVP of a company. Where when I've heard of AEW, it's been feuds and stories and some kind of captivating payoff from Jon Moxley. That's what I've heard with AEW. But when it's about a match, it's always. And if you are someone who is enthralled by you know the stories of a top champion, and that's going to get the most time, that's going to get the most effort, and things like the Kingston Moxley thing. Like I watched a few of those promos, and it's like those are awesome. I didn't watch the match. I didn't watch the matches because I didn't watch any AEW match. But if someone said Moxley was wrestler of the year for the whole year, it's like,
Yeah.
sure. Because he felt like, even on the outside, he felt like he mattered the most.
Yeah, he made that
And then-
championship this year. in
It
my
is the
opinion.
distinction that I put between, the best in-ring guy and the MVP. Sometimes they're the same. Sometimes they're not, because you can have like Kushida was for years the best in-ring guy in New Japan. He's awesome. He's the best. He was one of the best in-ring guys I've ever seen, but but he doesn't connect with people. Like the emotion is not, the emotional buy-in is not there. He is technically perfect, but there's something off that people can't connect. So you can't call someone exclusively because of matches the MVP. I think someone like Jon Moxley kind of embodies,
Yeah, no.
where he's not going to put on classics. He's not going to put on this, that, but he will captivate people, and he feels important wherever he goes. Like I heard about him at Bloodsport, and I heard about him, and I didn't like him in New Japan. He was
No,
a big
I
deal
didn't
in
either.
New Japan. He was a big deal in AEW. He was
Y'all
a
are
big
crazy.
deal in Bloodsport things. He was a big deal no matter where he went. So if he's not a bad pick for wrestler of the year in general, he's probably a good pick for wrestler of the year in a.
I think he's far and away the most important wrestler in the world
Absolutely.
Yeah.
because he has the opportunity to be, like he's positioned as the top guy in AEW, but he also has the freedom to go and work the Tokyo Dome. He can choose to work some random indie, and that puts a lot of aura and gravitas behind everything he does. And I think that in general, I think he's been backing it up. I am a big fan of the matches. I loved pretty much all of his New Japan run. I think
I just said yuck.
And are you talking, Joseph? I don't know if you stopped or if you were confused.
Cut
I
out
think
of
you
it.
cut out.
no, yeah. Sorry. I think I'm back. And yeah, I think he just absolutely works in every setting that he's ever been in, and he's great in the ring. He's fantastic on the mic. He feels like a big deal.
No, you're absolutely right, and I definitely agree with what you said, Forrest. And I feel like that kind of sort of also goes along with the favorite wrestler versus best wrestler thing, where it's like Jon Moxley, in my opinion, like he isn't my favorite. I think he's probably not even my top 5 favorite AEW wrestlers. But when you talk about it that way and like the impact he's had on not even just AEW but like the entire wrestling business this year, then he absolutely should be Wrestler of the Year. Not even just for AEW, but just of the entire calendar 2020. So in that matter, absolutely. I just feel like Kenny Omega, I remember a lot more of Kenny Omega this year, at least for the work rate aspect, they do Jon Moxley. And like I said, that goes back to your argument there. So I think either answer can be Kenny Omega or Jon Moxley. I feel like if you go with Kenny Omega, then you can also make an argument for Cody, which I wouldn't, but I feel like somebody out there probably could. But Jon Moxley is absolutely the right answer. But now let's get into the more interesting part. Ranking these promotions from 0 to 10. Starting with WWE.
0.
I'm going to give them a 2 because they gave me 2 great matches this year.
That's fair. You know what? That's fair.
You know what? I'll give them a 6 because I don't have
That's
a
a
scale.
lot higher than I think you would gave them. But all right.
I didn't watch it. They didn't cross over into my world and bother me literally at all. So you know what?
So shouldn't the answer be 5 then, since that's the neutral answer? I think 6 is a bit high if you're neutral about it.
Yeah, you guys gave it 2. I got to balance it out to a nice average of like 4.5.
You know, they're a trash fire of a company, and the only good things about them are people who refuse to be bound by their horrible creative mechanisms. So it's like...
Isn't it so impressive that like Daniel Bryan is the only person who's like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And they're like, no, is like, I'm going to do it anyways. And he just consistently has good, captivating stories and matches because he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And if you stop me, I just won't wrestle. And they're like, Bryan, happy with us.
Exactly. You know, that's why it takes a certain level of talent to be even remotely special in that company, because everything about them is designed to strip away things that are individual and unique and interesting. So if someone is doing good stuff in the WWE, that's a huge marker of their ability and talent.
All right. Impact Wrestling. I'm going to have to give them a 0 because I barely watched anything from them.
Can I shrug out of 10?
I would also give them a shrug. That's
back
just,
it up then. Shrug
they're
out
there.
Because I think 0 would be calling them a horrible company, and I'm like, well, that seems.
Yeah, I don't want to say 0 because that implies that they're bad. They could be great. I don't know.
Shrug out of 10 then.
Nobody does.
Fair enough. All right, Ring of Honor. I'm gonna have to give them a 6 only because the only thing I've seen of them was the Pure Tournament.
I think a 6 is fair, given that they did disappear for most of the year because of COVID. And then they came back incredibly strong with just 8 weeks of really good television. But now it's kind of back to business, kind of ho-hum. Matt Taven's taking up time on TV. Vincent, and it's just like, okay.
Unimaginable name.
I don't understand.
Yeah,
this
like Ring of
company
Honor is that
sometimes.
one company where like I'll watch it if you recommend me a match, but like I have 0 interest in watching their week-to-week product. Like 0 interest.
Yeah, absolutely. My interest in them completely dissipated after Gresham won the Pure title tournament. I don't even like who he's lined up to defend it against at Final Battle. So it's
he's doing Flip Gordon.
Yeah, and it's like, okay.
Flip Gordon is so like I hated that like year or so where Flip Gordon was hanging out with the Elite and people pretended Flip Gordon was he's not good. He's bad.
He's not good.
He's not he really isn't. At his best, he is so ridiculously mid. Do you remember in 2018? This is just something I remembered. Flip Gordon was in a triple threat match at an Honor Rising card. The triple threat match was with Hiromu Takahashi and Kushida, a veritable pairing of 2 of the best juniors in that company for years and years to come with Hiromu. And that match, Flip Gordon won it, pinning Hiromu. Weird. And it's like he did some spot where he just was like on his hands and he was just like spinning in a circle. And it's like people like Flip Gordon. There's one thing I like about Flip Gordon. And it ruined for me in Best of the Super Juniors when he worked it that year, is when he goes on the ropes and he does a flip and he rips his pants off, flipping out of his pants. That's cool one time, good spot. And then he does it every entrance for 20 matches on Best of the Super Juniors. And it's like, you know what? I don't need this in my life.
All right, so Stardom / Joshi Wrestling. I feel like if I'm just doing Stardom, because I think I gotta give every other Joshi company a shrug out of 10 because I don't really watch them consistently enough. If I'm going with just Stardom, I gotta give them a hard 7. I want to go higher, but they lost so much this year. It's kind of difficult to try and give it a higher rating. They lost so many wrestlers. They lost so much time on. Like, it's hard for me to give it good, but it's hard for me to give it a bad one too.
I mean, they always lose a ton of wrestlers,
but
like,
it was a
inordinate.
ridiculous amount.
It was
this
inordinate.
year.
You're right. Like from December to like, you know, Hanakamura, basically. It was like their entire top of it.
Like,
it
was Thanos.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a tough one. But the whole thing with Stardom, I don't watch a ton of Stardom. Like I fell out of it. I'm gonna try to get back on it. What I saw was, I don't care for Donna Del Monte. I don't care. And they've been so prominent in the company that it's like it stops me a little bit. It gives me pause to be like, do I want to get really into it? I don't really care about Julia. I don't really care about Suri. I don't really care about Himeka. I don't really care. Micah's fine. She's the most likable of the bunch that I've found.
The slander of Shiori here. I'm not liking this.
I don't know who that is. I haven't watched Stardom since the 5-star final. And even then, I didn't watch it much before. So I can't really give it a score, but like I'm like a hesitant, a cautious optimism, but like I'm really like hesitant. Like, do I want to get back into this? And I do, but if someone asked me, it'd be like, yeah, like it's a resigned yes.
So I'm gonna take it as a 5.
You need a number?
Yes, number.
I'll give it a 5. I'll give it a 6 because Mayu was good. Konami be shining. I'll give it a 6. Same as WWE.
Joseph.
I got nothing. I didn't watch Stardom. I don't follow it. So yeah, shrug out of 10.
All right, indie wrestling. I mean, it's gonna get I want to give it a 0 because they, but shrug out of 10 for me.
I'm gonna go. Oh man, I'm gonna say like. That's such a big umbrella, but I'm gonna limit it to the American independent scene. I'm gonna say 4. I don't really like the big indie companies right now. I'm not a fan of GCW at all. And every other company under that feels kind of samey, especially the ones that were able to continue running shows this 2020. So these days you kind of watch indie wrestling for the talents, not really for the companies. You kind of just pick the people you like and see where they're booked because everyone's booked everywhere. Yeah, indie wrestling feels the most flat and uninteresting it's felt in years, and I don't think it's ever gonna be. It's gonna be a long time before it's that like special sort of real haven for a strong product that it was from the 2000s to the like mid 2010s.
So tough now because I mean with places like AEW and WWE both like just sucking as much from the indies as well. Like previously it was WWE and it's like, okay, we can still make stuff. But then AEW, like, you know, the big like in giant icon, they went and made their own company. It's like, we're just gonna sign all of our friends. And it's like now with coronavirus, it's like we can't make more people before they can get signed away. So it's like it's tough.
Yep, everyone's getting signed. No one sticks around. Nothing feels weighty or significant. I guess the most the most overact on a long-term scale is probably Ricky Shane Page and his Ohio boys, and I'm not hugely invested in that. I don't particularly enjoy their wrestling, so it's just finding the little highlights that you like. I enjoy Lee Moriarty. I enjoy Alex Shelley, Dominic Guarini, Kevin Koo. They're all great. Daniel Makabe disappeared off the map because of COVID. He had one match at the Collective. It was great. But yeah, Not a lot going on down there. 4 out of 10 for me.
All right, there's so much Japanese wrestling that I hate to umbrella it all together, but
I can't. Like, it's too much.
yeah, there's so much to umbrella.
It was
Okay, so
hard.
how about you guys? Because I don't really want to speak on something I don't really
I-
talk about. How about you pick what was your favorite non-New Japan pro wrestling Japanese company?
I don't watch them. Like, I'm trying to get into more Noah stuff, trying to get into more Stardom stuff. Like, I'm trying to branch out because of extenuating circumstances. But I just don't watch it enough. Like, I can't give an answer, not only because it's just so much and so much diverseness, but I just don't watch it.
It's gotta be DDT for me. And if we were just ranking DDT, I'd give them like a solid 8 out of 10 this year. I think they were incredibly strong throughout even the COVID era. They built up their champion in Tetsuya Endo. He won the title in June. He's held it all the way through the year. He's looked great for the most part. And it's a really varied show, you know. You have the comedy stuff, if that's your thing, on the undercard. Their little tour shows always have these bangers, like the tag team matches with All Out, Nautilus, Eruption. Those are really fun. It's just an easy promotion to watch. You can just pick a show, and any of their like 6-mans are pretty much guaranteed to be an incredibly easy and breezy watch. So I really enjoyed DDT this year. I highly recommend checking their stuff out.
All right, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we're ranking this one from Death of Pro Wrestling Podcast Episode 1 to Still God's Greatest Gift to the World.
They're around. I want to, it could have been a 5 in that, but they've made me so mad this year that I kind of have to give them something like
4.
a 4,
Yeah.
maybe 3. It's been a bad year for the company, and that's not because of COVID. There's
It's been
real
building for a while.
serious booking
Like,
issues in there.
Yeah.
It's been building for a while, man. This bad. Like, they've had bad years. This is their 3rd bad year in a row, but I wouldn't say that they've been bad for 3 years, but it's been trending.
It's really been
way.
a downward spiral.
It's been
And
bad.
we talked about this earlier with the DOPW1, and Joseph put it so greatly. And like, me and Forrest kind of been wearing rose-colored glasses, and a lot of fans kind of do when it comes to New Japan, because we're in the bubble in a sense. And I feel like for me, and I said this earlier, was when my channel got deleted, that's when a lot of the things I tried to look past just came out of the light. And I'm like, yeah.
That's bias. You can't trust. You're an unreliable narrator. You have a personal stake in this.
Yes, New Japan is the best. You're just bitter.
I
about your
am
copyright.
better.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that they're good. It's bad.
I mean,
but
I
don't-
didn't always think that they were great, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of the things that they were doing, like, it literally just,
No, listen. Take it from me, I don't have a reason to hate New Japan besides it being not good. It's not good. You can't listen to Tyler because Tyler got personally attacked. I genuinely just don't enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not good. No. 3 is probably fair. There's a lot to like, and I think when I say something like New Japan isn't good anymore, or New Japan's bad, or whatever, there's gonna be a lot of responses to my video. YouTube.com/Forrest. New Japan isn't good anymore. Hour-long video. Where I talk about this exact thing. There's an expectation of when I say a company isn't good anymore, there's like, oh, but what about this thing? What about this thing? And what that means, it doesn't mean that there's nothing good in a company. Like, the end of WCW is regarded, it's a bad company. There's still good things that you can find there. There's still good things that you can find in Ring of Honor as they started to decline. There's still good things that you can find in New Japan. Like, there's a ton of good stuff in New Japan. But it just doesn't, at a certain point, it doesn't outweigh the problems. And when the problems are, and when the things aren't good enough to cover up the problem, then slowly you start to realize, hey, I'm watching a bad thing.
yeah.
New Japan, there's a lot to like. 3 is good. There were things to like this year, but so much of it is just obscuring how bad New Japan is to a casual view. If you really look at New Japan, and I'm telling you, if you're watching this, youtube.com/Forrest, where New Japan isn't good anymore, I'm telling you, I look at a lot of this, and it's so much stuff that it's like it can't just be like, oh yeah, they've had a bad year. They've had a couple bad years. They're a bad company. There's still good stuff. It's good enough for a 3. There's lots of good things, but it's not good anymore. It's a bad company.
And Forrest and Joseph are right. There is a little bit of underlying biased hatred, but I'm gonna give it a 4. All right. Lastly,
You gave it better than
what?
us. You gave it better than us. They attacked you.
Yeah.
Well, they attacked me, and then when I came back, they attacked me again. So yeah.
Well, in fairness, they've been pushing Ibushi. We've been catering to Tyler. I'm hitting my wife, but she keeps coming back, giving him a 4.
All right.
Yeah, fair.
All Elite Wrestling. And I think this is going to be the most interesting one because this is their first calendar year together. So for
Sure.
me, as someone who watched this promotion, like my channel almost kind of sort of talks about them more than I do New Japan now. For me, I'm going to give them 7.5. I want to give it an 8 really badly because throughout the year, I would say that a lot of the work was good, even great. I don't think I really seen a bad AEW show this year. I don't really remember any bad AEW. I'm not saying there's none out there, but I don't remember any bad AEW matches or shows. A lot of it was consistent. I love Jon Moxley. I became a really big fan of Hangman Page this year and Orange Cassidy and all that. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement, which they can make some next year. I think that if COVID didn't fuck them over from March to really May, I probably would have given them an 8 or higher. But that period really screwed them up for a while. So I'm going to go with 7.5.
I'm gonna go 7 for AEW. I really, really loved the February to March string of TV and pay-per-view. I thought they were just hitting on all cylinders. Just every week there was something really great to see. Of course, COVID kind of killed all that momentum, but there's stuff in the back half of the year to really love. Of course, people who know me and my channel, Eddie Kingston, that was a huge part of the back half of the year being incredibly watchable for AEW. If you like the Kenny Omega stuff, I don't. In terms of the heel turn, I'm not a huge fan of that. But if you like that, then I think Hangman Page was also clearly a highlight of the year. He's just been quietly having really great matches, and a lot of them too, especially when he was teaming with Kenny Omega. I think AEW at its best is one of the best promotions in the world. At its worst, it's so annoying and just pretentious and infuriating. But that's what you get with the Elite guys. You take the good with the bad. You buy the ticket, you take the ride. But I think as a whole, AEW's been a really good promotion pretty consistently throughout the whole year.
My answer, I don't watch it, but it didn't reach out of the ether and really bother me. So 6, same as WWE.
All right.
It's literally, it's inoffensive. It doesn't cross over into my realm. I don't pay attention to it. It doesn't knock on my door and tell me to go fuck myself. WWE is doing atrocious things out there, but I don't know about it. So I sleep very well at night.
All right, so I think the highest rated for me was AEW. I think the highest rated for Joseph was DDT, and Forrest, I think you gave everything a 6, basically. No, you gave Stardom a 7, didn't you?
A lot of 6s, a lot of shrugs.
What would you say was like something that was a high 6?
Here's the thing. I only watch New Japan. I'm telling you, I only watch New Japan.
I'm trying to go to like, come on. I know you want to say AEW's a high 6. Do it.
I made up Shrug out of 10. And then I said with Stardom, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it out of 10. Like I don't have answers for these. I only watch New Japan, and that's
Well,
a
just
3.
like you tried to
So by
expose me
default,
earlier for my Kota Ibushi bias. I'm trying to get you to fucking break out and say,
I don't have a bias. I just don't watch most things, and the thing I do watch, I don't like.
fair game. All right, so we wrapped up a lot of the heavy hitting stuff here. Let's get into some of the questions you have for us on Twitter. So I asked on Twitter, what do you guys have for us to answer? And we'll start off with It's Me Blakey, and he says, talking about the conversation of the championship making the wrestler or the wrestler making the championship more prestigious. And if I can get on this really quickly, I think it goes both ways, honestly. I think in the sense of the wrestler making the championship, I think you have to talk about Jon Moxley this year. And Chris Jericho already was a great champion, but Jon Moxley really made that championship mean so much more. And just, even if you don't want to talk about Jon Moxley, you can talk about Okada's reign as a champion from like when he beat Naito for in 2016 onward. That really was the representation of the person making a championship. I mean, let's not say that Okada made the championship what it is. But I'm just giving a bare bones. I'm giving a bare bones example. I'm not saying Okada made the championship or anything. But if you want to go into inverse, then I would say that pertains to like a wrestler that has like no character or little to none. It's not as easy, but it does exist.
It definitely goes both ways. I think that there are a lot of instances of a championship elevating a wrestler. Like even for better and for worse. Like there's no question someone like Evil is elevated by winning those titles. He feels more important because he won them. The matches weren't good. His reign wasn't good. His main event push isn't good. He does feel more important. Historically, Shinsuke Nakamura, Okada, Shinya Hashimoto, like these are people who felt like they were bigger deals after they won the championship in New Japan. But there are also like when you have someone like a wrestler making a title, you have to kind of go to great wrestlers taking nothing titles in company. John Cena United States Championship, and even someone like, you could argue this is kind of where the turning point kind of happened in New Japan, which is Keiji Muto winning the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in 2007 or 8, where it was someone who was important, and he was in these two companies, and he did win it, and he passes the torch to Tanahashi, who then goes on to sort of define it. You could say the reign is good, say the reign is bad, but it's an important figure holding the title for a while, making it feel a little bit more important, and then passes it to someone who can kind of keep running with it, because we know Keiji Muto can't.
What about you, Joseph?
It goes both ways, and I think the key is timing. You have to know when to do one and when to do the other.
Yeah.
There are some people who would have greatly benefited from being elevated by a championship run, and they didn't get that chance. And vice versa, you put the belt on the wrong guy, and it feels like it's a little less important because of it. So the onus is on the booker, on the promoters, to just have a proper sense of when to do one and when to do the other, because they're both incredibly important functions. Like, I'll be the first to say, as everyone's already known, that wasting a reign on Evil is just that. It's a waste, Evil doesn't need to be that guy, and he didn't need to hold that belt. So that was just a bad call all around. But, sometimes it's gotta be done, Like, no one could have predicted how brilliant of a gambit it was to put the belt on Okada that first time in 2012. But it worked perfectly. So it's all about the timing.
Absolutely. And we get into our next question from, and I'm going to try not to butcher these names. I apologize if I do. I'm going to say Durante P94. And this question's more so for Joseph and Forrest, because I don't watch enough Noah to really answer this. Is Go Shiozaki actually good or not? His hour-long Fujita match is still my obvious match of the year, but I don't think he's the hit with another one since then. The Kia, oh my lord. The title change was also good.
He's pretty great. He's pretty great. But I would just like to not watch him for 50 minutes
Yeah,
in a
that
row.
Saki
You know,
match
like
that I saw earlier this month, I would have rather not been 51 minutes.
I really like Go Shiozaki in general. Like I like his performances and I like him as a performer. Like I feel like he's easy to empathize with. He's a nice figure. He makes total sense being the flag bearer for Noah. I just wish he'd wrestle shorter. Like that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, I think that there's of the little I've seen, Go Shiozaki, whether I've liked the match or not, Go Shiozaki has been great. So to answer the question just very directly, is Go Shiozaki actually good or not? Yes. Are his matches always great? No. No one's like Daniel Bryan's had misses. Everyone has misses. Like great wrestlers are going to miss just based on numbers alone. And just like, you know, oh, these title matches aren't great. That could just be a function of, hey, if you're going to go 50 minutes, you're going to miss probably more often. I don't know if they're hits or not. I haven't really seen a lot of them. But for Go Shiozaki, he's absolute very, very.
All right. Moving on, we have, and I'm going to assume it's E-Rock Fluffy. It could be Eric Fluffy, but I see E-R-O-C. It may be E-Rock. E-Rock Fluffy asks, if you could team two wrestlers up for a tag run, who would it be and why? Become a team, win belts, lose belts, break up. I mean, you're asking me to book the whole thing there. I mean, if I had to choose two wrestlers, I'm going to say Hiromu versus Yano sounds like a fun-ass team.
Oh, God. How do I hang up on this call? What a villainous pick.
Exactly. I want to torture Forrest over here.
I don't know. What is this? I'm sorry, Iraq. I know you don't mean anything by it. You're just curious, and thank you for participating. But like, I'm not fond of this idea of doing it just to do it.
Yeah.
Like, can't we just have a tag team? Like, just a tag team. They're a tag team. They're a team. That's their thing. I think we need more of that than we need another, half-baked pair of singles guys slapped together so that they can just feud in the end.
More nudity.
Yeah, like what it's like the assumption of like every wrestling team, it has to break up and be this big thing. They have to feud. There are oftentimes great. There are also way more instances of being like, this matters way less than them being. My answer is I don't even want them to necessarily break up because the idea is they have been broken. And it's like, it's just very simple. I think Jay White and David Finlay, like it's just these two guys, young lions together. They have a lot of history. They've been apart. Eventually Jay White's going to go be a face. And when he's a face, he should be with David Finlay because there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of chemistry and they're going to hug one time. And it's going to be the golden lovers moment where they're hugging under the confetti. And then I'm going to cry like other people claim to cry, but I'll really cry. But exactly, like the idea of like book this the idea that a tag arc is become team, win some matches, break up, feud is the idea that it has to be that way. It's boring.
It's the
like,
standard that's been set. And I think that
you can just have two guys be in a tag team and also do single stuff. They don't have to break up. They can break up, but it doesn't have to be a big drama show. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't ever have to.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to his next question. He says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much has your interest in wrestling deteriorated during the pandemic? How much okay, I think it should be inverse of 10 to 1 then.
How much is your in wrestling declined? I've been feeling pretty out lately, and it's not just towards wrestling, towards like I just don't care about like stuff. Like I started wondering, like, is it just like, am I just working a lot, and so I'm trying to keep up, my interests the same way that I did before I had a full-time job? So it's like, what am I just watching too much of it? Blah blah blah. And then I started watching things like Noah. And it's like, oh, I really enjoy this. And so it might just be, oh, I just don't enjoy the New Japan that I've been watching. And no other companies have really interested me. So it's less about the pandemic because I don't have a huge diverse scope. But as time has gone on in 2020 where things just aren't very good in general, my interest in wrestling has been incredibly shaky. You can't really rate it out of 10 because that's not, you can't do ratings out of 10 for interests. It's an odd scale, but it's been shaky, but I feel like a little bit lighter with the making of this New Japan Isn't Good Anymore video and knowing that I'm going to consciously kind of take a step back from the things that I don't.
Yeah, I would say for me, even though the pandemic really fucked over wrestling, there was really only 2 events that really had me deteriorate wrestling in a sense, and I'm gonna the next one, it should be pretty much apparent, was the whole fucking deletion of my channel thing. And then the other one was the Speaking Out movement. Like, that whole conundrum right there, where a lot of the wrestlers that I enjoyed and really looked up to were exposed for being disgusting human beings, like, that really fucking hurts, man. Like, people who you liked, and you never really know a person, but you know you have this image of what they're supposed to be, and then it comes out that they're not who they say they are, and they're even worse than what they portray to be. Like, dude, that it just hits you very hard, and it's like you can't really confide in these people in that sort of way all the time. And it makes you take a step back, really. So I would say more so speaking.
Man, I don't know if my interest deteriorated really. More so that just the industry has deteriorated, so there's just less to be interested in, you know. You're not really spoiled for choice this year. I feel like I feel like I've been more curious about wrestling this year. I try to be more curious with every year, and this year that just manifested itself in, you know, watching other stuff, watching old wrestling, you know, revisiting stuff that I really enjoyed before, seeing how that holds up. And I feel like this year has been a lot about reevaluating how I feel about wrestling, and that process in itself has been incredibly rewarding, even though at times it's incredibly frustrating as well, because it feels like you're losing some things that you used to enjoy, but there's use to it in the end, and it's a important process, I feel.
All right, and what is your number 2 wrestling pet peeve? Number 2 is very specific.
I don't know. What is this? The same guy?
Same guy. I'm gonna say long strike battles and leave it at that.
I'm gonna say
what's wrong with you? Those are the best things.
I'm gonna say Erock Fluffy on Twitter. Number 2, is it just like, do we assume that we all have the
I
same
guess
number
maybe the
1?
assumption is that because they watch us enough, they know what our number 1 is.
But we do
Maybe.
not, definitely do not have the same
No,
number
we definitely
1.
don't.
I gave
Clearly,
WWE,
yeah.
I gave WWE a 6 for God's sake. I'm crazy. Don't listen to me.
Man, what are my pet peeves in I more have pet peeves with like wrestling discourse, wrestling discussions. I have pet peeves about that, like
Can we just answer what our number 1 is? Like, what do we not? What is like the thing that we just gets our goat about wrestling in general? If I could punch up Erock Fluffy's that question.
50-minute Japanese main event title match.
Dumbass booking decisions.
The assumption of gravity without proving.
Oh, well, there we go.
There's so much,
Yeah, there's
honestly.
a lot, but...
Like, there's so much.
But getting into that, all right, Sid9771 says promotion of the year, match of the year, wrestler of the year. Sir, we have individual channels talking about this, so I'm sadly going to skip your question.
And we also went pretty down, like, with, I mean, we kind of delineated this question into breaking it up far more specifically.
Exactly. So
it's
kind of already been answered. All right, I love this next question because it's non-wrestling related. Favorite pizza toppings? For me, I'm not gonna lie, I can go down with just cheese. But if I had to get a pizza topping, bacon.
What?
Okay, so
yes, I know you're a pineapple pizza, Joseph, but come on now, everyone
No, no,
else
here's
has a
the
good taste.
I can dig a
Ah, I
pineapple
knew
pizza.
it!
No
Oh,
problem.
God!
No problem.
pineapple's fine. But here's the thing: is that I'm gonna actually ask you because I can't talk to Tyler. Joseph, when you consider a pizza, do you start a neutral pizza is just a pepperoni pizza?
Yeah.
Because to me it is absolutely like you start with a pepperoni pizza and then you build on top of that. So if it's like if you don't count pepperoni, because to me it's not a topping, it's just what a pizza is. If it's not pepperoni, then I don't know, like it's something like there's the pizza that I'll usually go to is pepperoni and something like hot Italian sausage. And it's not, but I wouldn't even say it's my favorite. It's just something I go for because it's something that I enjoy. But I never think of it like, oh, this is my favorite pizza topping. Because
I'm not a huge pizza guy in general, so I
I'm a
only have
pizza
like
guy,
3 answers.
And the reason
to
I had
this.
to add with pepperoni is because when I was younger, I fucking loved pepperoni. Like, I ate it all the time, and as I got older, I just came to hate pepperoni, so...
Tyler, I'm sorry, did you just say you're a pizza guy and you're like, you know what, I'm a big fan of just cheese?
Because I like the base of the pizza. Like, I can judge if a pizza is good if I'm just eating... Because if you throw a bunch of shit on a pizza, you can mask if the pizza's bad or not. If it's just cheese, you know if the pizza's good. So yes, I can eat just cheese.
I would agree. I agree with the principle, but not the practice. I disagree with your findings, and I don't appreciate what you're going for. I like the idea. What you're going for is correct. You can't obscure how bad food is by just throwing shit on it. But I don't agree with your sample.
I'm gonna go beef bits, shrimp.
Wait,
and
shrimp? You put seafood on pizza? What the fuck?
Shrimp rules.
Why are you
yo.
putting
Shrimp
seafood on pizza?
With like, there's
what?
something there's a specific flavor here where they have shrimp on it and it works. And
Listen,
I dig
I'm an
it.
American. I'm a sucker
Joe?
from some garlic butter shrimp, but on pizza, like with cheese and...
Joseph,
Yeah, it
Joe-
works. It's really good.
Joseph looks like he would like
He
shrimp
said
on
he likes
like, just
pineapple on pizza, so I shouldn't be surprised.
pineapple
Yeah,
on
'cause
pizza.
it rules.
Pineapple on
'Cause
pizza
it's
is
good.
What's wrong with
Fine.
you? Do you put
Fine.
strawberries in your
People
fucking
made that-
chocolate milk too? Are you weirdos?
Who made that such a
Oh,
debate?
that's not get crazy. Okay.
Not the same thing either at all. You're going with, I mean, it's combining. I'm not going to explain why pineapple pizza is fine. It's not my favorite,
This
but
is the next
people made that
podcast.
such a
We're
device.
discussing why pineapple pizza is or is not the best thing.
Dude, you don't want to talk to me about food.
Pineapple pizza.
I will threaten to kill you over food. So it's one of my favorite things where it's like, because it's so low stakes that I just get so mad about it that I'll start screaming over. It's like, no, listen, the Wendy's chicken sandwich is better than the McDonald's one. I'll kill you. I'll rip your head off. It's just fun. It's fun getting mad about food. Pineapple on pizza is fine. Yeah, favorite pizza topping. Like if a base pizza is cheese, then it's clearly pepperoni because that's just what a pizza is
Fair
to
game.
me. So, if I'm making a pizza online, like I'm ordering one, I have to click pepperoni. So I guess it's very basic, but that's just what a pizza.
Yeah, I don't like pepperoni, but I'm not going to deny that's pizza. So I just get it with cheese and just call it a day. All right.
You know what? No, I'm gonna give my Joseph pick. I like Oreo cookie crumbs crumbled all over it and put in the crust.
What is wrong with you?
I like the Oreo cream filling put in the crust, so when I bite it, I get a nice kick. Oh, it really it complements
Shrimp
the
on
shrimp
pizza.
and the
Oh my
gumbo on it.
Americans are the worst.
I mean, this is true, but let's move on. All right, the Smark of BD. What does BD mean? What do you think of Kenny Omega possibly winning the world title in 3 major promotions: AEW, AAA, and possibly Impact?
Has it ever been good? Like, has it ever been done well? Like winning, like, oh, I'm the belt collector. I'm going.
I wasn't alive when Ultimo Dragon did it, so I couldn't really tell.
Yeah, but
I was thinking that example also.
Well, that was different because most of those titles were like that J Crown, where it's like it was just 7 companies had their titles combined, right? Like
Yeah.
it was one thing. So like that's a little different because it was an idea that was shared, and also it wasn't all of their world titles; it was their junior titles in the '90s. Who gives a shit about
I
a
think
junior
this
title?
question is really going to be how they handle it. And when you say they, now you got to talk about all the companies involved. It's not like Kenny Omega's going to
No,
take all
here-
those titles to AEW. Like, Kenny is a traveling champion for each brand. So, I don't know.
This is literally, he will not be a traveling champion for each brand. And it only does matter what AEW decides to do with it, because AEW is the biggest company of the three. So
Yeah,
no
right.
matter what, they have to defer to how they want to book the AEW champion. And this is an old politics thing that I don't know how much it comes up, but fans talk about it constantly, where, oh, Jon Moxley can't lose the United States Championship in New Japan until he loses the
Yeah, I
AEW
never
title,
said
because
that.
AEW wouldn't want their champion to lose it. And it's like, if you're holding another championship in another company, you should 100%, like, if you're just being such that person of like, no, you can't lose it, it'll make our company look bad. If you still think like that, you're like a douchebag. And it's like, I shouldn't have to think about what you're doing with your company and your title when I'm trying to book mine. That's why this story
Absolutely
sucks. It sucks because it just, all it does is it handcuffs smaller companies to the will and the decisions of the bigger one. And it sucks. It's a terrible creative decision. Now, with the AAA title, they don't care. The Mexican companies don't care about a big championship. It's different. But
It's true.
if
Mexico
Impact-
doesn't really care about belts
And-
at all.
And honestly, like something like CMLL has my ideal situation for titles. Just a bunch of them in a bunch of different weight classes, because that's very familiar to me as a fan of like MMA and boxing. Makes sense to me. Delineate it that way. None of these titles are more important than the other because there's not a mid-card title. It's just, hey, this is your weight class's title. I think that's a great concept. CML doesn't care, so it's whatever. But it works there because it doesn't matter. Kenny doesn't hold the AAA championship and carry it around, and he's not the AAA mega champion. It's just something that you can say to make him seem cooler. But if he wins the Impact championship and shows up on Impact, well, then Impact can't do things because, I mean, they can't book the AEW champion to lose. So now Impact is handcuffed to what AEW wants to do. And you can say, oh, Impact is bad or whatever. They should just listen to AEW. But like, it's a bad story idea. It looks cool
on
in
a paper.
picture.
It sounds great.
It sounds cool, but the logistics of it suck.
Yeah, go to the comment section
I'm
of
just
the
not-
Impact Wrestling live stream. There was so many divided fans, like, oh, here's the Impact fans. Yeah, I don't like Kenny Omega being over here. Da 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 da. And they have AEW fans like, oh, Kenny Omega's over here to help you guys. You don't get the like. Fans already just are trying to fucking divide themselves about it, and it's like, this is why you can't fucking do shit like this. Exactly why.
Not interested. What's Kenny gonna do in Impact?
No,
That's
and he
even
already
a
is
little
doing this
interesting.
bullshit
Like,
where it's
what?
like, oh, Kenny Omega's appearing. Like, if Kenny Omega ain't wrestling, don't fucking talk to me about this shit. Like, I don't. Like, you're trying
and
to
it's like,
get me to watch
what are
these
the
other
options
promotions that I already don't watch. That's also the thing that I kind of like. Now you're making me go on my way to watch all this other content.
I mean, it's fine, but it's like the idea of like, oh, you can go over here and watch stuff. It's like, okay, whatever. But like, let's say Kenny wins the belt in Impact. So what? All it does is it makes Kenny
That's
look
really
good.
the only thing that's happening here.
Because it makes Kenny look good. It gives AEW brownie points. Like, oh, they're working with other companies. Good for them. And it gives Impact a boost in viewership. The cost of it is that it creatively sucks. It's boring.
There's
What
just
can you
nothing
do
for
with it?
Kenny to do. Like, there's no real interesting opponents for him in Impact. Like, there's no one in Impact that I'm thinking, wow, they gotta wrestle Kenny Omega. Like, what? Who's their champion right now? Rich Swann? Like, I don't know.
It's
When was the last time Rich Swann was, like, getting props for his work? It feels like that's, like, 5-6 years too
I
late
mean,
also.
In fairness, he could probably be fine. No one watching Impact. He could be great. No one
and it's
knows.
also kind of odd because
That's
it's
true.
like as soon as Kenny won the title and they started, and it's only been like 1 week going on 2 weeks, so it's too early to say. But as soon as Kenny won
Isn't
the
it
title
already-
and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to this company," and then I'm coming back here, it's like I already started to lose interest a little bit because it's like this is
Yeah, I was
the
about to say, isn't
AEW
it-
championship, and it's we're not getting any storyline based in AEW right now. Like that alone makes me already kind of disinterested. But that's me.
It's a nice idea, but in practice, the fans are the ones who get
Pretty
fucked
much.
because AEW gets points, Kenny Omega gets clout, Impact gets viewers, the fans get nothing.
All right. So, oh Lord, I'm gonna try to butcher this. Saqueef Osmian. I'm so sorry if I butcher your name. Favorite. Shut up. Favorite time period in wrestling. Favorite wrestling match of all time. Favorite time period in wrestling. For me, I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, so I have a bias towards the Ruthless Aggression era.
Favorite time period in wrestling, that's got to be 2000s ROH.
I mean, yeah, it's what did you watch when
Pretty
you were
much.
younger? Answer. Late
Yeah.
2000s WWE, like specifically SmackDown, like 2007 to 2008 SmackDown, like that was when I started watching.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But for me, when just discovering ROH and like bootlegging it from like trashy download sites, burning it onto my own DVDs, like, you know, that has a lot of nostalgia for me, and go back to it and a lot of it holds up, and it's incredibly influential in terms of the talent who went through those doors. They kind of really shaped what the wrestling landscape is now. It doesn't get much better for me.
All right, so guys, what is your favorite match? Because I know mine.
Can I guess yours, Forrest? I have a guess.
Yes.
Because you said it would disgust people,
It would
right?
It would I don't know, like it's not an outwardly like terrible match, but it's not anybody's favorite match but mine.
You know what? I have a guess based
Okay.
on reading your scripts. Have you mentioned it in a script?
Yes, but it's not a script that I've
Is
done
it a
any.
match that happened in North America? Silence.
Yes. sir.
Why did you
Yeah,
say
I
it
said-
with
I said
shame?
yes.
Like, yes.
Okay. I know. This is my guess, okay?
Okay.
Did it happen in 2008?
Ah!
Oh
That's
my-
the best year in
Oh
wrestling!
my, I know what it is.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
It's
I know what it is.
my favorite match is
I know
Edge
what it is.
versus Undertaker.
Yes!
I knew it.
All right.
One Night
You know
Stand,
what? I fuck
2008.
with it. I loved anything from 2008, so I fuck with it.
It's not like an amazing special influential match. They like the story that built to it was legitimately good. The payoff to it was legitimately good. Undertaker losing kind of legitimately surprising. The story afterwards was good. And it's like and I watched it when I was 13. I remember earlier that day. It was like June 13th or something, 2008. And I remember earlier that day I went down to the park with my brother and a friend of my brother. And we went there, and I was nominated to get buried in some sand, like have my head above the sand
Like a
and get buried. So I was buried, and it had rained a little bit, like a couple days prior. So like underneath the first little bit of sand, it was wet and heavy. So I was basically like sitting down, kind of reclined, and they buried like my legs and like half of my up to like my chest, and my arms were down, and it was like, okay, they buried that, and I was on like this playground, and then they were like, bye, and they
Damn.
left, and the sand was so heavy that I couldn't unearth. And a lady who lived beside the park came and started helping me, and my brother's friend came back to like pick me up because he felt bad. And then later that night, I went and watched Edge and Undertaker. And this night, One Night Stand 2008, it also featured this Randy Orton Triple H Last Man Standing match they'd been building to all year. And it was a rematch of a Last Man Standing match that had happened when Orton won the title in 2007. And this was a match that, like, I swear 5 minutes in, Orton goes for an RKO, Triple H pushes him over the top rope, Orton breaks his collarbone, and then the match ends.
Can we just agree
remember.
that 2008 is one of the greatest years in professional wrestling?
Probably not. I probably
I don't know
not.
about that.
It's the year that I watched when I was young. So I love it. Like, I love 2008 SmackDown. Like, people will look back and say, it's a dark day it was a dark day in wrestling when the Divas Championship was created. I was like, oh, SmackDown's getting a women's title. And it's Michelle McCool versus
Yeah,
Natalia.
I fuck with that match.
And sure, it's a butterfly, but SmackDown's getting its own women's championship. Cool.
It's no 2013, you know. 2013 is quite a year
I would
for
argue
wrestling.
2015.
I mean, it's no. I mean, it's no 1989.
Oh, yes. What a year.
1989 is probably the right answer for like, oh, what is the
I
best
said
year of
one of. I
wrestling?
didn't
Like,
say the best.
It's a very acceptable correct answer.
yes, it is like it's like the transition year for pretty much anywhere that you
Every
Yeah.
company.
all Japan, New Japan, all
The
of
NWA.
not just all of Japan, all of Japan, because 1989 was when UWF was established. They ran the first shows in the Tokyo Dome. Go over
Did the Flair Steamboat trilogy in the
Flair,
States.
Steamboat. Oh, I'm
Jumbo
sure-
Tenryu.
exactly.
Oh,
like
what a year.
what a year.
For me, I can't really say I have a all-time favorite. I have matches that I love more than others, but I
Pick a
don't.
match.
I don't really have one specific match that's like this is my favorite of all. I don't really have one. I mean, if I had, like off the top of my head, if I had to choose one, and I wouldn't even say it's my all-time favorite, but Johnny Gargano versus Andrade Cien Almas from TakeOver Philadelphia is like the one that comes to my head. But like, I wouldn't even say that's my all-time favorite.
Fair.
I mean, I was there, so there's a bias, but I've seen that match 5 different times, and I love it every single time I watch it.
I have an all-time favorite, but y'all gotta stay subscribed. I'll give you my number two. Number two is probably Okada Shibata.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
an
that's a
amazing
good
one.
one. That's a good
I
one.
just
That's-
watched that back like a few days ago. It's still an amazing match.
Oh god, it's so good.
It's so good. Shibata just owns him for so long.
Yeah, he beats the shit out of him. I wonder why Okada isn't good anymore when he spent 2017 getting the living
He
shit
probably
kicked
got all
out
of
of
the
him.
good shit kicked out of him in that match.
Now he got all of his shit kicked out of him.
I think he still had enough left for the Omega Okada match, the fourth one. He had enough.
I mean, yeah, he had 70 minutes of it, and it was fine. It was good, but you know, what are you gonna do for 70 minutes? Be compelling? No.
Fair game. All right, moving on. These names. Sentient Manita? You know what? Whatever. Thoughts on NJPW booking outside of the main title picture? We kind of really covered this. That New Japan sucks already.
I'll actually answer this. Their main title is so fucking bad, and it's been bad for so long that you kind of have to find appreciation elsewhere. Elsewhere,
The only championship
most-
most never in a junior.
elsewhere mostly suck. Junior and junior tag are good. They've been good. They've been good against all odds. Never has been good this year. It was fine 2019. It was fine 2018. U.S. title, chuck it in the
It
garbage.
doesn't exist.
If you don't consider the IC title the main event, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because I made a whole fucking video about this. I hate that fucking belt. Chuck it in the fire. Tag titles, chuck them in the fire. 6-man, they don't care. So basically what you're looking at is if you want to like New Japan, watch New Junior Pro Wrestling. I'm telling you, just only watch the
When they
junior
care
stuff.
about the
Don't even watch.
juniors.
Don't even. I don't want them to care about the juniors. They care about the heavyweights, and they suck. Don't care about the juniors. Just let the juniors slide underneath the radar.
When New Japan leaves a division alone, they have the room to be good.
It's so
Yeah.
good. It really is. New,
Like they leave the Never guys alone, and it rules. Shingo
Yeah.
had an amazing title run this
Absolutely.
year because they left him alone because they didn't care. They didn't force him to do all this stuff that they expect of a main event. So the less focus you have on it, the better it'll turn out in the end.
my fan fiction is that the juniors just book themselves. Like they just show up and they're like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna tell our stories. And New Japan doesn't even, much like I have this conspiracy theory that New Japan doesn't know they have English commentary. Kevin Kelly just sets up a desk and patches into the
very
feed and just,
You
It
know,
just announces it.
I was just talking about this with separate people, and I am almost convinced that the English commentators receive like zero direction from
Oh, they
them.
get nothing.
They
No,
kinda
no,
just
no, they-
talk and
they
it
don't.
works.
But here's like my theory is that they don't know that they have English commentary. Like Kevin Kelly going into G1 said there will be live G1 commentary, and then there wasn't. And it's like, okay, that's weird. But then you look at where they're set up at Korakuen Hall. They're off tucked away in the corner. Do you know where the Japanese commentators are? Beside the ring, where commentators.
I wish when I was in Japan, because I low key had breakfast with both Gino Gambino and Kevin Kelly in Japan. I wish I could have pricked their brain a little bit on like what.
They much like they don't know they have English commentary. I don't think they know they have a junior division.
Nah,
I think the juniors,
see, they only remembered when all the guys that they liked weren't there. That's when they remembered.
No, they're just showing up, and it doesn't explain why junior and junior tag are so good, because they are good, consistently good, not just good matches, well booked. They're consistently good against all odds. I don't think New Japan knows that they book junior. I don't think New Japan knows that they have English commentary. I don't think New Japan knows who Shingo Takagi. I don't think that they're paying attention. People are just coming in and doing stuff, and somehow it works out. But the stuff they pay attention to is bad.
How about you, Joseph?
I can't say that I follow much of the other divisions outside of the heavyweight stuff. I'm not a huge fan of Hiromu, so I don't particularly care for anything they're doing in the junior division right now. I did like the Best of the Super Juniors final. That was very good. The best booked division in the company to me is just the Never title. And that's just because it's really simple. It's just stripped back of any kind of burden to be anything but itself, and that gives it freedom from expectation almost. Like they don't have to go.
It doesn't have to.
They don't have to go 30 minutes, and that's already a big deal. So
it doesn't have to be epic. It doesn't have to be special. It can be, and when it can be, sometimes it is. And those are the most valuable spots. Like you can have something like Shingo versus El Desperado, and that's a low key, very good match. Like it's just honest. Puts has scuffs on its shoes, puts its hard hat on, goes to work. Just honest and good. And then a month, 2 weeks before, you had Shingo versus Sho, which is a big dramatic showcase that has all the best parts and all the worst parts of this style. But it feels big and feels good. And you can have these matches 2 weeks apart for the same championship with 50% of the same competitor, and it's the same thing. Whereas the heavyweight title has to be this. It has to have so many things that all the matches are the same.
Yeah. For me, I can just boil it down to Never 6 doesn't count. The US does not count. The IC does not count because it's basically a prop now. So I boil it down to the tag titles, which I think are fine now. I think they were booked better when New Japan first came back. And then it just became one big feud for the title that stretched across
what you're describing is Tanahashi was really good.
Tanahashi was great. But like that's been the entire tag division. So it's like, well,
and then Tanahashi left the belt, and Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi had a 30-minute match with Yoshi and Goto for no reason.
Tanahashi and Ibushi were great. And then after that, it just was fine. No slight to ZSJ and Taichi. I thought they'd been doing a good job as tag champions, but they're not really that interesting as tag champions as well.
They're really good, but at the end of the day, right now, they're tag wrestlers, and so New Japan hates they exist.
Exactly. The junior tag titles, I'll be honest, I never cared for those titles. The junior...
Fuck you. Oh, good.
I watch the championship matches. I just don't care for because it's normally always the same fucking teams going up against it. So it's like it's hard to care about it sometimes.
It's the same teams with a few thrown in there. There's more there than there is with heavyweight tag. There's no teams there.
Well, I mean, they tried to make some when they came back, and that's really what makes that title, I think, a little bit more interesting now. But even then. The junior heavyweight championship, we talked about this. That is like the best title going in New Japan right now. And then the Never championship, as they praise it already, that is a great championship. There is a whole siren going off right now. I hope you guys can't hear that.
when they're coming to pick you up for your bad takes about junior tag titles.
Yeah, I think it's the feds. They heard me slandering TBSI earlier. I think that's what it is. But the Never Play Championship, it's been great, and I think it's really been great because with the IC and US being out of the picture, they kind of have to do something with it, and that's where a lot of that came in. But to get to your next question, other Japanese promotions you all follow and try to keep up with, what they're good at and what they're bad at. We already talked about it.
Already kind of talked about that. Joseph talks about DDT. I'm trying to get into Noah. Tyler and I dabble with Stardom. Watch those 3. You'll probably be fine.
I dip in and out of BJW also. The Astronauts tag team is really good in Big Japan. So when they ever have a big tag team title defense, they're the current champions there right now. You should definitely check that out. They're one of the best tag teams in the world. Takuya Nomura in particular is a fantastic young wrestler, and if he ever is given the chance to have a big long run with the Big Japan belt, it's gonna be fantastic. So check them out, but I can't say I really follow them closely as a promotion.
The next one I think is more of a statement. He says, wait, isn't this basically the same dog shit booking of the main title last year with Okada and Sonata, but with cheating? I'm guessing you're relating
Not
this. Yeah,
quite. It's pretty different when you look at it. Like the purposes are entirely different.
Yeah, it's entirely different. Like really, it's just that Okada and Sonata and Naito and Evil had a bunch of. It's the only that's where the similarities stop. They're both for the heavyweight title, and they've had 4 matches with a G1.
And they weren't great.
Yeah, they're not great. I think Naito Evil a power struggle is good, but it's not great. Like it took them 4 attempts to get a pretty good match. But it's not the same. Like there's more of a story between Naito and Evil than Okada Sonata. Like Okada Sonata is there because like Sonata's a top wrestler theoretically, and Okada holds the belt. Like there's more going on with that, and yeah, it's just there was more to it than Okada Sonata. Like they book the titles pretty similarly year to year. So you're gonna come up with a lot of similarities and a lot of patterns, and either you like that or you don't. I like it. I like Dandis.
All right, and lastly, and this is a question I have for all of us: what can pro wrestling do to get back on its feet in 2021?
Go away and come back in 2022.
Yeah, I literally we both. I just said stop. Like we fucking said the exact same.
Yeah, it's pointless. Just stop doing it right now. It's not worth it. For anyone.
Don't even come back 2022. Just go away.
Go away forever.
Like
make us miss you.
There's enough.
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to miss
to
pro wrestling this year. This siren's so
I'm
loud.
willing to say they're right outside
they
your
literally
window.
got right outside my window. I can hear it so loud right now.
They are wrestling. You know what? I'm willing to say it. There's been enough wrestling. We could stop it now, and we'd never watch all of it. You're not wrong. We're never going to be able to watch all of the televised wrestling. So you know what? We just put a pin in it. It was a good experiment that we've run for the last however many 100 years. But you know what? We're good. I think we're good.
Everybody come back to the 90s with me. We're just going to do the whole thing 1 year at a time. And we'll be doing it until 2040. You know, it's just stop with the wrestling.
No more wrestling. Like we as a society have progressed past the need for wrestling.
And listen, they said it better than I could. So I'm gonna give a kayfabe answer here. For New Japan, get on the room and say, do better. I'm taking the book away from you because I don't know what the fuck he's been doing for the last 11 months. For AEW, don't get too ingrained in whatever you're doing with Kenny Omega because I feel like this can very easily just be a bad thing for them. So have your little fun and then put the title on Hangman. I feel like if he keeps it and they're still doing it, they're gonna lose me. But that's me personally. And then for WWE, you do you, boo-boo, because I don't really care. And yeah, that's it. That is the Death of Pro Wrestling Podcast, Episode 2. What did you guys think? Comment down below. Let us know. Once again, Forrest Silva, his stuff is in the description. Joseph Montillo, his stuff is in the description. Tune us out, guys. What do we need to know before we get out of here?
YouTube.com/Forrest Silva. New Japan isn't good anymore. Video, hour long. talks about the entire downfall of the last prestigious wrestling organization. If we're gonna stop wrestling, then we may as well just acknowledge New Japan's the last one that's prestigious, and this is why they suck now.
I try to be nice about some matches and some wrestlers in 2020, and even then, I still complain about some of them, but there's still some great stuff. It's gonna be a long video. I'll reveal it now. Here's your scoop, Tyler. It's gonna have a cool intro video that's already been made by the wonderful IQ Wrestler, one of the goats of highlight videos. So just check that out. Subscribe. It's going to come to you soon, probably by January.
Yeah, and I hear the police knock on my door already, so I got to get out of here, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Just hit the like button. We don't know we're doing another episode. We might just make a fucking trend and do it every 6 months. Who knows? We'll talk to y'all later. Have a good rest of your holiday, guys.